In the year 2008, the company faced a dire crisis, and Shen Fei, having dealt with internal troubles, was poised to embark on a grand endeavor. However, the market was saturated with counterfeit devices, and competition was fierce, with sales driven purely by monetary incentives. Shen Fei resolved to pivot from domestic sales to exports, evolving from a 4-card, 4-standby model to an 8-card, 8-standby device, and eventually to a super battery. From the initial MT smartphone proposal to a comprehensive industrial layout, it appeared that he was nurturing a market in Africa, struggling under the blockade of technology giants, while secretly orchestrating a vast strategy. MediaTek lamented, "You have the enhancements. I have the designs. Why cast me aside?" To which Apple retorted, "Who would believe that? The Motorola that defeated us is merely a facade, a shell with only gatekeepers at its headquarters." Google mused, "I should never have open-sourced Android, seeking a patron." Shen Fei remarked that this was merely the beginning. Yet the answers to the 2008 economic crisis seemed all too easy to discern. From chip design teams and lithography technology to NVIDIA, he aimed to acquire all semiconductor technologies necessary for his homeland. Chapter 1. In a time of crisis, minority shareholders seek to sell the company. Shen Fei's consciousness gradually awakened under the glaring lights. The buzzing in his ears was accompanied by the sounds of heated arguments and something thudding against the table. He struggled to open his eyes, his vision shifting from blurry to clear, revealing a long conference table surrounded by 7 or 8 individuals, all with flushed faces. "I disagree. This is the foundation laid by old Shen. How can we simply sell?" One voice protested. "Not selling? Are we just waiting for bankruptcy? Do you not understand the current state of the domestic market?" Another voice interjected. "Nokia dominates, holding a staggering 40% of the market share, while Samsung, Motorola, Ericsson, and LG together consume another 45%. There is hardly anything left for domestic manufacturers, yet everyone is pouring money into market acquisition. What does Transsion have? Technology? Channels? Or branding?" Old Zhang was right. With old Shen in charge, there was still a glimmer of hope, but now that he was hospitalized, persistence seemed futile. "The offer we received is substantial, 200 million. This is a friendly price. How is Transsion worth so much?" Someone questioned. "If we delay further, production lines will halt, and distributors will withdraw. We may end up with nothing, and that would truly break old Shen's heart." As tensions escalated, Shun Xiangyu finally stepped forward. Shen Fei felt a splitting headache as a torrent of memories not his own flooded his mind. Transsion Technology, a domestic 4th-tier mobile phone manufacturer, akin to a counterfeit factory. His father, Shun Guohua, was the founder, currently hospitalized due to a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. Shen Fei, aged 24 and the only son, held the nominal title of deputy director but spent his days attending various banquets and parties. The memories of his past life became vivid. He was once the founder of a Fortune 500 technology company, a titan who had weathered numerous sanctions from America. Even after achieving success, he never forgot his roots and occasionally engaged in research. After an intense period of work, he collapsed in the laboratory, only to awaken in 2008, inhabiting another version of himself named Shen Fei. Enough. A man in his 50s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, slammed his hand on the table. He was Zhang Mingyuan, the company's vice president and the second-largest shareholder, fiercely advocating for the sale of the company. "Since young Shun has awakened, let us hear his opinion." Zhang Mingyuan turned to Shen Fei, his gaze openly condescending. "Xiao Fei, your father is in the hospital, and as the sole heir, you theoretically possess decision-making authority. However, we, who have labored alongside your father for over a decade, cannot stand idly by as the company collapses. Thus, we have devised a better plan." A middle-aged woman chimed in. "Li Xiaoyun, the financial director of Transsion Technology. Xiao Fei, Uncle Zhang is correct. The company has less than 50 million in liquid assets remaining. We are on the brink of being unable to pay next month's salaries. The suppliers in Huiqiangbai have already requested payment 3 times. If we do not pay, the next shipment will not be supplied. Selling the company for 200 million could at least cover old Shun's medical expenses and provide some closure for everyone." Zhang Mingyuan urged earnestly, "You are still young. With this money, pursue something you love. Do not let this mess drag you down." Shen Fei rubbed his temples as his memories fully returned. Transsion Technology was founded in 2005, focusing on low-end features. This parallel world mirrored his previous life almost precisely. Last year, Apple had launched the first generation of its iPhone, and in June, It released the iPhone 3G, heralding the arrival of the smartphone era. While the domestic feature phone market remained vast, yet competition had reached a fever pitch, especially with MediaTek offering integrated solutions, making feature phones accessible to anyone with devices and personnel. Moreover, visionary domestic giants began to lay out their strategies, with one company quietly establishing its chip R&D department in preparation for transformation. Transsion, lacking in technology and channels, had only the advantage of Shen Guohua's industry connections, which had rapidly cooled since his hospitalization last month. Some had even demanded higher rebates, threatening to cease sales otherwise. The internal unrest was palpable, with Zhang Mingyuan and several elder statesmen having already privately approached interested capital for a potential acquisition. The alleged 200 million selling price was likely riddled with ulterior motives. Shen Fei took a deep breath, scanning the faces in the conference room. Zhang Mingyuan, the vice president, held 3. Li Xiaoyun, the financial director, possessed 2. The marketing director Zhao Kai and production manager Wang Jigang were also opposed. Together, these veterans held no more than 15. Suddenly, Shen Fei realized something. He closed his eyes, meticulously recalling the details of the company's equity structure. His father, Shen Guomin, held 85, not the typical 30 or 40 seen in common power struggles, but a commanding 85. He had absolute control over Transsion technology. He had assumed these individuals congregated to form a coalition, intending to wrest his father's assets from him. Instead, he found them to be mere small fry. Shen Fei's eyes lit up with the realization that the advantage lay with him. That's enough. His voice, though not loud, silenced the entire conference room. All eyes turned toward him. The young man, often regarded as a foolish prince, now bore an intensity in his gaze that was unmistakably different. Vice President Zhang, Director Li, esteemed colleagues, Shen Fei began, slowly rising and leaning forward on the table. First, I wish to express my gratitude to each of you for steadfastly holding your posts during my father's illness. His tone was calm, yet it carried an undeniable air of authority, causing Zhang Mingyuan to tense slightly. However, regarding the sale of the company, Shen Fei paused, locking eyes with Zhang Mingyuan. I do not agree. That's good, Zhang Mingyuan said, almost eager to hand over the contract, only to be taken aback as he processed Shen Fei's words. What? You do not agree? Shen Fei, do you comprehend the current state of the company? Are you aware that the profit margin for a single phone has dwindled to under 5? Do you not know that Coolpad and Bodeo are about to release new phones? At that point, we will face nothing but a dead end. I am aware, Shen Fei nodded. I also know that Apple's iPhone 3G is set to launch globally next month, and that Nokia's Symbian system currently commands approximately 70% of the market. I am also aware that MediaTek's turnkey solutions have proliferated counterfeit devices, and we are utilizing this very system. With each statement he made, he advanced a step closer, ultimately halting beside Zhang Mingyuan. However, I am cognizant that Transsion technology embodies my father's lifelong dedication. I understand that among those present, some genuinely care for the company, while others. Shen Fei's gaze fell upon the slightly trembling hand of Zhang Mingyuan. Perhaps you've already found a successor? Chapter 2, Technology System X. Trafficker system, what nonsense are you spouting? Zhang Mingyuan abruptly stood. Huaxing Capital has offered to acquire Transsion, Shen Fei recited with an indifferent tone. Moreover, they have pledged that upon completion of the acquisition, you, Deputy General Zhang, will assume the role of CEO of the new company, with an annual salary of 6 million, plus 5% in equity. Director Li will continue as the Chief Financial Officer, earning 1 million annually. Am I mistaken about anything? As for the others, the conference room fell into an immediate silence. Li Xiaoyun's complexion turned pale, Zhao Kai and Wang Zigong exchanged glances, while others averted their eyes, hesitant to speak. Do you truly believe that I, Shen Fei, am merely indulging in leisure and revelry? Shen Fei scoffed, returning to his seat. From today onward, the company shall operate as usual. The R&D department will continue to advance the feature phone upgrade project, while the production department will ensure the fulfillment of existing orders. Marketing. He directed his gaze at Zhao Kai. General Zhao, you have worked hard lately. Take a break for now, and let Li Qing take over for a while. Director Li, suspend all domestic offline channel expansions, retract the front lines, and preserve the core elements. You. Zhao Kai hesitated, wishing to leverage Deputy General Zhang for assistance, yet he overlooked who truly held sway in this company. If there are any issues, feel free to voice them. Shen Fei remarked while his lips curled into a slight smirk, exuding a mocking demeanor. However, if you wish to remain at Transsion Technology, you must adhere to my directives. If anyone is unwilling. He scanned the room, abruptly slamming his hand on the table. The sound resonated, reverberating in the chests of those present. You may resign. I will provide the compensation mandated by labor laws. Though we are on the verge of collapse, the company can still afford this amount. Isn't that right, Deputy General Zhao, directorly? Shen Fei, you are truly ungrateful. Li Xiaoyun could no longer contain herself. We do this for the good of the company, for the good of old Shen. He has treated his colleagues well. We cannot allow his efforts to go to waste. Arbitrarily replacing the company's benefactors will only dishearten the staff and render your father's efforts futile, Shen Fei retorted with a smile. Directorly, if my memory serves me right, your son recently purchased a villa in Yangqing for 15 million in cash. Where did that money come from? Your salary likely does not suffice. Li Xiaoyun's complexion shifted from crimson to pale, then to an ashen hue. You are monitoring me. You truly are ungrateful, she stammered, unable to articulate further. How can this be? I won't pursue it, but you must account for the company's funds. Shen Fei waved his hand dismissively, then turned to the others. You are all forgiven for past transgressions. However, from this day forth, Transsion shall have but one voice. Remember, Transsion is a family name. Of course, this was merely his tactic. He understood the principle that mercy does not govern leadership. The meeting is adjourned. Department heads, please report to my office in half an hour. Those unwilling to attend may prepare for the handover. With that, Shen Fei exited the meeting without looking back. As the door closed, Li Xiaoyun's furious voice echoed, unaware of the gravity of the situation. President Shen has spoiled him. Just wait. Within 3 months, Transsion will face bankruptcy. Old Zhao, why didn't you support me just now? Never mind, sisterly. The young must learn through experience. Zhao Kai replied patiently. You aren't much better. Li Xiaoyun scoffed, charging headlong like a fool. Don't you see he's using you as a warning? You. Zhao Kai's face reddened at the rebuke, his words faltering. At that moment, Zhang Mingyuan observed the quarreling team, clapping in admiration. A bunch of fools. Old Shen, how wrong I was about you. I never anticipated your cunning was so profound. So, was your recent hospitalization genuine, or? And you, a group of imbeciles, so foolishly played into that young brat's hands, and still have the audacity to engage in infighting. Shen Fei hastened towards the chairman's office, a space that had once belonged to his father, but now accurately described as his own. Pushing the door open, he was greeted by familiar surroundings, an expansive desk, with a bookshelf behind it filled to the brim with technical materials and business tomes from the communications industry, some volumes appearing quite worn, clearly indicating his father's frequent perusal. He closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling deeply. The earlier display of authority had been a facade. In truth, his palms were clammy with sweat. In his previous life, he had been the founder of a Fortune 500 company, but that was built on the foundations of guaranteed success. Now, Transsion Technology resembled a sinking ship surrounded by icebergs. With his father gravely ill, internal morale was fraying, and external competition was fierce. While using fear as a deterrent was viable, he could not replace everyone. After all, his reputation was indeed. Most importantly, the year was 2008, and the financial crisis was brewing. A single misstep could lead to bankruptcy. Shen Fei glanced at the date, July 8, 2008. Fortunately, there was still some time before the financial crisis would fully manifest. Although the consumer electronics market was on the brink of a downturn, for him, rebirth in this era presented an opportunity in the financial market. He might even leverage this situation to acquire assets beforehand and obtain technologies previously out of reach, thereby solidifying Transsion's dominance in the mobile phone sector. Of course, the immediate concern remained survival. The era of feature phones was waning, and the surge of smartphones was imminent. If Transsion clung solely to the MT feature phone strategy, it would surely lead to ruin. Yet, transformation required funds, technology, and talent. Transsion possessed none of these. He understood the impending tide, yet he was unable to hold fast. Should he perish as he did in his past life, it would spell disaster. Ding! A crisp electronic sound suddenly resonated in his mind. Industry Innovation System, Cosmic Trafficker Company, Limited, activating. Host detected, Shen Fei, identity verification, actual controller of Transsion Technology. Eligibility confirmed. System binding successful. Shen Fei was taken aback. Could it be that his old accomplice had been reborn alongside him? Yet, gazing at the pale blue light screen before him, doubt crept in. Although his old partner had indeed recruited many teams for him, they had never brazenly labeled themselves as traffickers. They had even pompously informed him that human trafficking was illegal. Currently bound enterprise, transient technology. Global market share, 0.0017. User approval rating, 3,125 10,000, sluggish. Available unlock points, 0, as Shen Fei stared at the screen of zeros in silence. The system's voice chimed in once more. Congratulations, host, on receiving a novice gift pack. Top-tier stock market trading team, 45 members. Novice task issued. Open new battlefields. Task description. Achieve a 5 market share in a single country within the fiercely competitive African market. Task reward. High-density battery technology. Black technology mystery box X1. Task completion time, 180 days. Africa? 5. Shen Fei furrowed his brow. In 2008, the mobile phone penetration rate in Africa was below 10, with many regions lacking even 2G network coverage. Nokia's low-end feature phones dominated the market, while Motorola and Samsung held only a small share. But where was the fierce competition? Chapter 3. Winning hearts. So it is. Shen Fei pondered, noting the striking resemblance between the African market and the monstrous housing market in Asia. It appeared that the system lacked a certain intelligence. However, this could prove beneficial, allowing for a more strategic exploitation of the system to enhance technology. Yet, the African market was not as simplistic as he had envisioned. Its foundational deficiencies rendered market expansion quite arduous. It was precisely due to these challenges that only a handful of giants were willing to delve deeply. Moreover, their strategy involved offloading outdated models without any adaptations for African consumers. Should Transsion manage to establish a firm foothold in Africa and accumulate its first pot of gold, it could later return to the domestic market, seizing the opportunity during the transition to the era of smart devices and emerge as a new dominant force. A clear strategy began to crystallize in Shen Fei's mind. Young Master Shen, Engineer Chen from the R&D department has arrived. The secretary's voice resonated from outside the door. Recalling his memory, this was a trusted aide of his father's, someone he had even assisted on a few occasions, entirely worthy of confidence. Please let him in. As the door swung open, a man in his 40s, clad in a wrinkled shirt with slightly disheveled hair, entered. He was Chen Hai, the head of the R&D department at Transsion, a quintessential engineer and one of the few who genuinely understood technology within the company. Having graduated from Harbin Institute of Technology with a degree in radio engineering, he had been with the company since its inception, a veritable confidant. You summoned me, young Master Shen? Shen Hai adjusted his glasses, his tone somewhat reserved, as he had heard of Shen Fei's illustrious reputation. Rumors of some changes today circulated. Yet he chose to remain loyal to the past. Please, take a seat. Shen Fei gestured towards the chair opposite him. You are aware that my father is still in the hospital. Previously, Shen Fei began, but then promptly interjected. Since I have now taken on this significant responsibility, I ask for your trust. I wish to understand our most mature product. Shen Hai momentarily paused, surprised by Shen Fei's words, yet he responded earnestly. Our flagship product is the T100 series, which features the MT6225 platform, an 1.8-inch CSDN screen, and a 300,000 pixel camera. It supports MP3 and MP4, and has dual SIM capabilities. The cost is approximately 220 yuan, with a wholesale price of 280 yuan and a retail price ranging from 399 to 499 yuan. It is a quintessential counterfeit phone, yet it remains an affordable option for many, with monthly sales averaging between 100,000 to 150,000 units. And what of the power consumption? Standby time? Shen Fei instinctively inquired. Utilizing a 900 mAh battery, it can last a day and a half to 2 days under normal usage. Shen Hai replied with a wry smile. Young Master Shen, we are employing the cheapest batteries available. Achieving this performance is already commendable. Shen Fei nodded, acknowledging the information. Yet he felt that such pricing was still too steep for the African market and recognized the necessity to reduce costs. The MT6225 platform was overly advanced. They needed to resort to more economical components, eliminating features like MP3 altogether. Rapid market penetration was critical, and the acquisition of high-density battery technology was imperative. If, hypothetically, we could obtain a new battery technology that enhances energy density by 80 while reducing costs by 30, what kind of product do you envision we could create? Shen Hai's eyes lit up instantly. An 80 increase would mean we could achieve a battery capacity exceeding 1,600 mAh within the same volume. Standby times could extend to 4 or even 5 days. If we can also control costs. He stood up in excitement, completely forgetting about maintaining his professional demeanor. Young Master Shen, do you have a lead? Is it a new technology from BYD or perhaps from abroad? However, the reality was that advanced battery technologies were monopolized by a select few, and the costs would likely be exorbitant. Shen Hai's expression shifted to one of disappointment. The domestic industry is still too lagging in this regard. It is merely a supposition. Shen Fei waved his hand dismissively, maintaining a composed facade as he fabricated a tale. Engineer Chun, if I were to appoint you to lead a team to develop a specialized device for the African market, what are your thoughts? Africa. Shen Hai faltered momentarily. The signal is poor there, power outages are frequent, and user income is low. Precisely. Shen Fei stood and approached him. That is why we require a device with ultra-long standby, robust signal strength, and an exceptionally low price. If we could optimize the camera for the skin tones of African users, that would be even better. He turned to face him. Is it feasible? Shen Hai fell silent for several minutes, adjusting his glasses. Young Master Shen, this poses a significant challenge. Achieving ultra-long standby would necessitate a larger battery and lower power consumption. Signal issues, however, are the easiest to resolve. Optimizing the antenna and RF modules would suffice. Low pricing necessitates the use of cheaper materials. As for photo optimization, that requires algorithmic support, which we currently lack. I shall address the technical challenges. You need not worry about funding. Shen Fei returned to his desk, gazing intently at him. You simply need to inform me if, once these challenges are surmounted, you can lead the team to produce the product. Taking a deep breath, Shen Hai suddenly grasped his superior's intent. If survival in the domestic market proved impossible, they should venture into a less competitive market and cultivate it anew. Absolutely. Provided the technology is in place, we could produce a prototype within a month and achieve mass production within 3 months. Excellent. Shen Fei summoned his secretary. Uncle Li, notify all department heads of a meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the large conference room to discuss our forthcoming strategic development. Uncle Li nodded, and Shen Fei turned back to Shen Hai. The future of Transsion hinges on this occasion. Please communicate any resources the RD department requires directly to me. Shen Hai nodded earnestly, and compared to before, a spark had ignited in his eyes. The following morning at 9 a.m., in the large conference room, Zhang Minyuan, Li Shiyan, and several other senior members were notably absent. Shen Fei glanced around. Their absence was a relief. Present were Shen Hai, the newly appointed head of the marketing department, Li Qing, the production department head, Wang Zhikai, the procurement department head, Lu Feng, and the head of the investment department, Huang Tianya, who had inexplicably joined them. Now that everyone is here, we shall commence, Shen Fei stated directly. The others remained silent, fully aware that Transsion was undergoing a transformation. Starting today, we will implement significant adjustments to our strategy. He activated the projector, revealing a world map with Africa highlighted in bold red. We shall abandon direct competition in the domestic market and shift our focus to Africa. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the room. Young Master Shen, you cannot be serious. Although Zhao Kai is targeting me, rest assured, I shall endeavor to reclaim our offline channels. Li Qing was the first to voice her support, honoring her gratitude. Indeed, the transportation costs are exorbitant. Selling a device at a loss is untenable. Wang Zhikai shook his head. Not to mention, in Africa, there are areas without electricity. Who would purchase phones there? Allow me to finish, Shen Fei interjected, striking the table for emphasis. I will pose a few questions, and if you still find them insurmountable, we can discuss further. The room fell silent. First, Africa boasts a population exceeding 1 billion, yet the mobile penetration rate is below 10. What does this imply? Chapter 4. Luxurious security and charter flights ahead. It signifies an immense market. Li Qing instinctively covered her mouth in astonishment. Indeed. Precisely, Shen Fei nodded. Second, what types of devices do international brands like Nokia and Motorola sell in Africa? They are merely old models that have been phased out in Europe or in our domestic market. Lu Feng from the procurement department chimed in promptly. We have dismantled several. They are outdated models from 2 to 3 years ago, even inferior to our domestic counterfeit devices. Thirdly, have these mobile phones been optimized for African users? A profound silence enveloped the room as everyone pondered this question. In the vast market of China, such adaptations were seldom made, let alone in the more underdeveloped regions of Africa. After all, these enterprises excelled at compelling users to adapt. No, Shen Fei began his self-questioning and answering routine, subtly guiding everyone's thoughts and actions to align with his perspective, a strategy that would prove beneficial for their forthcoming endeavors. They merely offloaded their surplus stock to Africa, disregarding the poor signal quality and scant communication infrastructure. The frequent power outages posed no concern for them either. As for photography, with the darker skin tones of many Africans resulting in indistinct images, that too was overlooked. Shen Fei rose and approached the screen, declaring, "This is our opportunity. What Transsion needs to do next is design a mobile phone truly tailored for African users." Each word he uttered resonated deeply with his audience. Extended battery life. A single charge must last at least 5 to 10 days. Enhanced signal strength, enabling calls even in remote areas. Optimized photography, ensuring that Africans can capture clear portraits. Given the scarcity of communication towers and the multitude of operators, they should implement dual SIM and even quad SIM capabilities to meet all needs. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated this. Chen Hai was the first to react. Realizing that this was far more detailed than what Shun had shared with him the previous day, it represented an entirely new development approach. Most importantly, it was no mere fantasy, it was practical. By addressing these pain points, they could become the true kings of Africa, akin to a rural siege on an urban market. Shun, about the battery technology you mentioned yesterday. It is already in discussion. Shen Fei lied without a hint of hesitation. Their technology is just a step away. It should be ready by the first quarter of next year. Additionally, I have contacted some engineers who have left Juchuang. They can assist us in optimizing the antenna design. For the photography algorithm, once we secure funding, we can collaborate with university laboratories. Those free resources may even yield potential recruits for our company. In truth, all of this depended on a robust system, but it was imperative to instill confidence in the team first. The mention of free resources momentarily puzzled the group, but they quickly recalled their own university experiences and returned to their tasks. Lu Fong furrowed her brow and tentatively asked, "What about the price? Can African users afford it?" There are wealthy individuals everywhere. No matter how low we set the price, there will always be those who cannot afford it. Thus, our target price is 305. Shen Fei announced, revealing a figure that startled Wang Jigang. "What? That price, it barely covers costs. Our cheapest model still requires around 35. Thus, we need optimization." Shen Fei turned to Chen Hai. "Engineer Chen, if we utilize the most basic chip, the smallest screen, and eliminate the camera, retaining only essential calling and texting functions, what would the cost be?" Chen Hai quickly calculated. After some consideration, he proposed, if we order in large quantities, we could reduce it to 20. If we become a major client of MediaTek, we might secure additional rebates on the chips, which could bolster our profit margins. We could potentially lower it to around 18. But then optimizing photography would be. Prepare multiple versions and gradually test the market, Shen Fei decided. Considering various miscellaneous expenses, the base model's cost would be approximately 25, allowing us to set a selling price of 30, even if it means operating at a loss initially. The standard model, which includes a camera and music playback functionality, could be priced at 50 with a cost of around 30. He looked at everyone. The survival of Transsion hinges on this endeavor. Those willing to follow me, I, Shen Fei, will not neglect you. If anyone has doubts, now is the time to leave. Compensation will be honored. No one moved. After a few seconds, Li Qing was the first to raise her hand. "President Shun, the marketing department guarantees task completion. The production department assures delivery. The procurement department will ensure a supply chain, squeezing every penny we can from MediaTek." Shen Fei took a deep breath. "Good. All departments must act immediately. In a week, after we assess the market, we expect to see detailed proposals." 3 days later, at Baiyun International Airport in Guangzhou, a Boeing 737 cargo plane was being loaded. Due to time constraints, this flight carried a stock of Transsion's T100 series devices, along with various components and a plethora of repair tools. Shen Fei led a delegation of 15, including Chen Hai, Li Qing, 7 engineers, and 4 translators, accompanied by an extensive security team of 40. Shen was thoroughly prepared. Li Qing approached him. We've connected with a distributor in Nigeria who has agreed to send someone to meet us. Shen Fei nodded, dressed in casual attire and sunglasses, presenting himself as a businessman rather than the previous frivolous youth. However, for safety, he had chartered the entire plane and hired professional security, remaining vigilant about Africa's safety concerns. As for funding, that was entrusted to Huang Tianya. While an economic crisis posed significant risks for most, for him it presented an opportunity, one devoid of any secrets. He pondered whether he could seize this chance to amass billions of dollars and acquire 50 of Juchuang's equity. Of course, that was a matter for another time. Engineer Chen? He inquired, noticing him checking the equipment. Li Qing lowered her voice. President Shen, are we taking too great a risk? I've heard Nigeria isn't very safe. Your personal presence seems quite dangerous. Such matters could have been left to us. That's why I brought security, Shen Fei replied calmly. As for me, I've learned quite a bit over the years. This venture is fraught with both risk and opportunity. I must be there. If we can establish ourselves in Nigeria, we will have secured half of the West African market. He gazed out the window, reflecting on how China in 2008 stood on the brink of rapid development, while Africa remained a largely forgotten continent. Yet, it was this very continent that was destined to evolve into a billion-strong mobile internet market, with Transsion poised to be its architect and foremost benefactor. System task: open new battleground, accepted, countdown, 177 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. Chapter 5. Successful negotiations ahead. 12 hours later, Nigeria, Lagos International Airport. Shen Fei stepped out of the cabin and was immediately greeted by a wave of heat, followed by the blinding rays of the sun. Surrounding the airport were low-rise buildings, with shantytowns visible in the distance. This was still Nigeria's capital, and the country's underdevelopment was glaringly evident. Yet, it was precisely this backwardness that presented an opportunity for low-cost phones, an opportunity for Transsion. Mr. Chen, welcome to Nigeria. A middle-aged black man in a floral shirt, adorned with gold chains, approached briskly, accompanied by several muscular men. This was James Wang, who even adopted a Chinese name, Wang Zhengwo, a Sino-Nigerian hybrid. He was one of the largest mobile distributors in Lagos. Mr. Wang, a pleasure to meet you, Shen Fei replied warmly, shaking his hand. Ah, so this is President Shen. Young and accomplished, personally leading the team. It seems you have great expectations for the Nigerian market. James Wang smiled enthusiastically, though his eyes hinted at shrewdness. The vehicle is ready. Let us head to the hotel. While Nigeria may be a bit behind, the city center is reasonably equipped. However, Shen Fei waved his hand. No rush. Let us inspect the goods first. President Shen is indeed a pragmatic man, James Wang praised, agreeing to accompany the group to the storage area. At this moment, the mobile phones in the warehouse had been unloaded and were neatly arranged on pallets. James Wang randomly opened a box and took out a Transsion T100, pressing the power button. The dual SIM capability, MP3, MP4 functionalities were all in perfect working order, and it featured a 300,000 pixel camera. He skillfully manipulated the device, showcasing his expertise. The specifications were commendable. However, Mr. Shen, the hottest selling phone in the African market right now is the Nokia 1100, durable and affordably priced. Your features. The price is negotiable. Shen Fei reached out to take the Transsion T100, prompting Wang Zhengwo to instinctively attempt to retrieve it. Mr. Wang, what price do you find suitable? As long as we settle on the price, these phones will be yours. There is no need to rush. Wang Zhengwo's eyes flickered, and a faint smile crept onto his face. The wholesale price is 20. I'll take 30,000 units, and you need not concern yourself with the remaining tasks. But there is one condition. The exclusive distribution rights for the LOX region must be granted to me. 20? That barely covers costs. Li Qing, who had been all smiles, slightly twitched her face while attempting to speak, but Shen Fei silenced her with a glance. Mr. Wang, we cannot agree to that price. Shen Fei smiled in response. The wholesale price for this phone from Transsion is 33. The suggested retail price is 50. As for the exclusive rights, certainly. But I wonder if you possess the requisite capability. I certainly do. We are the largest mobile phone distributor in the area. However, 33 is too steep. I only acquire Nokia products for 25. Why should a small brand like Transsion cost more than Nokia? But Nokia lacks dual SIM capability, MP4 playback, and does not feature this 300,000 pixel camera. Shen Fei placed the sample back in his hands. Mr. Wang, Let us have an employee test the camera's effectiveness. I believe most people will appreciate the quality of this photography. Wang Zhengwo beckoned an employee, who approached. Shen Fei instructed him to stand in the sunlight and take a photo with the Transsion T100. The image on the screen was merely acceptable, with a remarkably authentic skin tone, a far cry from the photos taken with later model smartphones. Yet, it still amazed them. They wished they could pocket the phone, as it was infinitely better than Nokia's non-photographic models. Interesting. Wang Zhengwo stroked his chin, pondering for a moment. However, 33 remains too high. I will start with 5,000 units at 30. 32, with a minimum order of 10,000 units. Shen Fei slightly conceded. Moreover, we have a new proposal to set up charging stations in your stores. Charging stations? Wang Zhengwo momentarily looked puzzled, but soon burst into laughter as if he had heard the grandest joke. Yes, you heard correctly. Frequent power outages in Africa prevent many users from charging their phones, which is the most significant barrier to mobile phone proliferation. We can install charging facilities in your stores, allowing users to charge their phones for a nominal fee. This approach will attract foot traffic, enhance brand awareness, and generate additional income. Wang Zhengwo's eyes darted around. As a mobile phone distributor, he understood the brilliance of this strategy. However, this plan would incur additional costs. If it involved diesel generators, it would require ongoing investment. The total costs could be astronomical. As for profits, Wang Zhengwo chose to overlook that. After all, he was a clever man. Solar power could be an option, but solar panels are quite novel and expensive, requiring corresponding batteries as well. One device demands substantial funds, necessitating the sale of numerous phones to recoup the investment. Here lay an opportunity. He needed to capitalize on it. Who would bear the equipment costs? Nigeria lacks such advanced industries. Even an old diesel engine costs over $1,000 and pollutes the environment. This would be disastrous for Nigeria's ecology. Environmental pollution? Upon Wang Zhengwo's utterance, everyone erupted in laughter, yet Wang Zhengwo's group remained stoic. Transsion will provide the fuel. You will receive 60 of the profits, while we take 40. Mr. Shen, how agreeable. Wang Zhengwo laughed heartily, leaning closer to Shen Fei, only to be halted by a nearby security officer. He bore no ill will, casually waving his hand. Then it settled. 32 for 10,000 units and charging stations. Expedite the shipment. A draft contract was signed on the spot. On the way back to the hotel, Li Qing could not contain herself. Mr. Shen, our profit margin at 32 is quite slim, and with the charging stations, we will incur significant losses for each unit sold. Moreover, their acceptance seemed too smooth. I can't shake the feeling that something is amiss. Isn't smoothness a good thing? Shen Hai displayed the earnestness characteristic of an engineer. Regardless of any ulterior motives, this is merely a test, a small survey. Shen Fei gazed out at the dilapidated streets, shaking his head slightly, having grown accustomed to the prosperity of later times. This sight was starkly different. He promptly drew the curtains. In Africa, electricity is more valuable than mobile phones. With charging stations, we can establish direct connections with users. Moreover, he paused briefly, a smile reappearing on his face. Do you think Wang Zhengwo will adhere to a retail price of 50? He will likely sell it for at least 60. What we desire is for him to initially open up the market and establish Transsion as a premium brand, offering superior specifications, a mobile phone tailored specifically for the African populace. Our ultimate objective remains to create our own distribution channels while seeking new opportunities in this market brimming with potential. Chapter 6. Market Investigation. Local power broker breaches contract. The convoy traversed a bumpy road, flanked by a multitude of tin shanties. Occasionally, barefoot black children chased after the vehicle. Now and then, a few individuals could be seen on the roadside, anxiously searching for something while clutching their Nokia phones. They are looking for charging spots, Shen Hai suddenly remarked. Shen Fei followed his gaze. A rudimentary shelter had formed a long queue outside, with a sign hanging that read, "Charging, 50 naira per session, approximately 0.30. Shen Fei picked up his binoculars for a closer look. Inside the shelter, dozens of phones were plugged into worn-out sockets, adjacent to a buzzing diesel generator. Diesel power. With such a clientele, this indeed holds significant market potential. We can integrate this with our official stores. Li Qing instructed the design team to create a suitable plan. System notification. The host is deepening their understanding of local market demands. Task progress. 5. Shen Fei paused. It turned out that thorough market research could also advance progress. Stop the vehicle, he suddenly commanded. Mr. Shen, this area is unsafe. The security captain advised. Just 5 minutes. And with so many of you, you can't protect us few? Shen Fei opened the car door and walked directly towards the charging shelter. The people in line stared curiously at these well-dressed Asians. Shen Fei approached a middle-aged man at the front of the line and asked in English, "How long does a full charge last? Do you experience frequent power outages here?" The local businessman glanced around warily, but chose to respond in the face of Shen Fei's greenback allure. 2 days, if only using it for calls. Perhaps 3 to 5 days. Power outages. When should we expect electricity? The group behind Shen Fei nodded in understanding, and he continued to inquire, "What model is your phone?" The middle-aged man carefully retrieved a Nokia 1100 from his pocket, its shell worn to a pale hue. However, as a feature phone, such was inconsequential. Shen Fei nodded, handed him some money, and then turned to return to the vehicle. Let us explore the local mobile phone market. The Laxbar market, the largest second-hand goods trading hub in Nigeria, resembles an immense labyrinth, with narrow passages flanked by a diverse array of products, worn clothing, old televisions, used tires, and heaps of discarded mobile phones. Shen Fei halted before a stall manned by a meticulous young man who was dismantling a Motorola with rudimentary tools. "How much for a Nokia 1100? Shen Fei inquired in English. Without lifting his gaze, the young man continued to tinker with the Motorola. "New one is $40. Old one is $20. Both come with a guarantee. If they break, I will repair them. What about these?" Shen Fei pointed to the assortment of small parts on the stall. "Batteries for $5, chargers for $2, screens for $8. Only dollars, no naira." Finally, the young man looked up, noticing the security personnel behind Shen Fei, his expression shifting to one of suspicion. "Which gang are you from?" "I have already paid for protection." "No, we are mobile phone manufacturers," Shen Fei replied, picking up an old battery. "How long will these batteries last?" "Depends on luck. The good ones last a year. The bad ones, just a few months." The young man stood up, wiping his hands, casting a wary glance in Shen Fei's direction. "Given your attire, you must not be locals. You probably don't even want these phones. There shouldn't be any intersection between us." Shen Fei smiled. "I wish to collaborate with you." "Collaborate?" "Yes." Shen Fei gestured towards the stall. "It's similar to your current work. You help me sell phones, I supply you with stock. As for the prices, they will surely be more profitable than the junk you are sifting through. If you perceive any risk, you can become our employee with a fixed monthly salary." The young man's eyes widened in surprise, his hands fidgeting in disbelief. The news felt like a windfall to him, yet he questioned how such fortune could come his way. You are not deceiving me, are you? What do I have to gain by deceiving you? I have no interest in this junk. And I offer you a second, more secure option. Of course, this hinges on you not misplacing the goods. Otherwise, you understand the consequences? As I am not in the charity business. Think it over. Meet me tomorrow at the Lamori Hotel. I believe you can find it. The young man nodded absently, seemingly taken aback by the proposition. After departing from the vendor, Li Qing whispered, "Can General Manager Shen truly secure a channel through such small vendors? If he does, how many units can they sell in a day? But he knows all the vendors on the street." Shen Fei waved his hand dismissively. "If he can make a profit, others will follow suit. Our goal is not to directly secure major channels, but to establish a network composed of numerous small nodes. In this way, the channel will take shape." He surveyed the market, observing the crowd engaged in bargaining. Trust in any market is gradually transmitted. No one believes the words of large merchants, but if the neighbors vouch for it, then it is indeed true. Just as everyone grasped Shen Fei's intentions, Li Qing prepared to return to his room to draft a proposal. After establishing this small vendor and securing the channel, they would leave the African market. At that moment, Wang Jingwo approached once more. He had reconsidered. He was dissatisfied with the revenue sharing from the charging station. He demanded exclusivity, and the exclusive agency rights for all of Nigeria. The exclusive rights must be granted to me. Otherwise, forget about the charging station, and I will not distribute the 10,000 phones for you. You can find whoever you wish, Wang Jingwo declared, slamming his hand on the table. "Mr. Wang, for a new brand like Transsion, we require more partners." Shen Fei maintained a calm demeanor, revealing no sign of anger, as he had anticipated this turn of events. "Lox has 8 districts. Previously, I granted you exclusive rights to 3 districts, which is already quite generous. As for the charging station, The 73 share is non-negotiable. That is insufficient. Observing Shen Fei's resolute stance, Wang Jiangwo appeared slightly anxious but quickly regained his composure, donning a confident smile. General Manager Shen, you are unfamiliar with Nigeria. Without me, your products will not penetrate the market. Is that so? Shen Fei chuckled, a sardonic undertone in his laughter, leisurely sipping from his teacup. Mr. Wang, are you genuinely that confident? Do you believe you can dominate Nigeria all by yourself? Can you truly compete with our Chinese capital? The final sentence resonated in Wang Jiangwo's ears, as Shen Fei's commanding presence filled the room. This was a stark contrast to his earlier demeanor. Wang Jiangwo's expression shifted slightly. He had witnessed the terrifying power of capital. Could this young upstart really? No, he must be deceiving him. Chapter 7. Establishing African Security Kid. You can deceive others, but not me. Since you are so confident, I will not make it difficult for you. Let us collaborate, for business thrives on amicable relations. Here's the deal. The wholesale price for the T100 will be set at $28 per phone. You only need to invest in the charging station project. While I must continue to invest, I am at a loss. Based on this investment, the split should be 19-1. In the long run, you will not suffer losses. As silence enveloped the meeting room, Li Qing's mocking voice suddenly shattered the tense atmosphere. Mr. Wang, your proposal is quite clever. If we concede so much, are we not working for you? Why should we not establish our own channels? Wang Jiangwo's expression darkened again, turning a shade of blue, but soon the anger dissipated, replaced by a similar mocking smile. Do you have that kind of money? To my knowledge, Transsion is merely a third-rate manufacturer in China. You cannot even survive in your own homeland. Do you possess the courage or the capability? Remember, in this business, success relies on strength, and I am that strength. After finishing, Wang Jiangwo stepped onto his chair, confidently gazing in Shen Fei's direction. Clapping erupted, interrupting Li Qing, who was about to speak again. Why not? Even if it is a third-rate enterprise, it still belongs to China, not the impoverished Nigeria. Here, human life is of the least value. I can undoubtedly establish independent channels. Today, 7 vendors from the ball market have already contacted me, willing to represent Transsion phones. Do you think these small traders would prefer to continue paying you a commission, or would they rather become our vanguard under our support, even at the expense of their lives? Wang Jiangwo fell silent. Shen Fei tossed a contract his way. This is the cooperation agreement. The wholesale price for each Transsion T1 is $35, and the price for the T80 model is $20. The revenue share for the charging station project will be a 50-50 split. Furthermore, your flagship store may only sell Transsion phones, with 12 branch stores prioritizing the display of Transsion products. Sign this, and I will treat today as if you never came. You will still remain an important partner of Transsion and Locks. To grow the business, we must expand the pie, not hoard a small piece for ourselves. Wang Jiangwo took the contract, perused it for a few minutes, and his anger surged. He crumpled the document into a fist and slammed it onto the ground. Pointing at Shen Fei, he exclaimed, "You are a ruthless one. This is the first time someone has treated me like a pig for slaughter. You will pay for this." He glanced at his brothers, signaling them to teach Shen Fei a lesson. But these young men were not fools. They could bully the weak. But they were not eager to confront Shen Fei's professional security team that had been bolstered in the area. They were merely trying to make a living, not seeking resurrection. They had no revival scrolls. Good lad, I concede. Just wait. After Wang Jiangwo left, Li Qing could not help but voice his concerns. General Manager Shen, have we messed this up? No, he was never here for negotiations. Human greed knows no bounds. Believe me, even if I promise, he will likely change his mind when it comes time to sign the contract. It is a farce for a prestigious company from Huagua to aid in poverty alleviation in Africa only to be bullied by local thugs. Thus, this cooperation is utterly impossible. Shen Fei casually rubbed his eyes, as if he had merely been bothered by a few flies moments ago. However, the monthly tens of thousands of dollars are no small sum in Huagua, let alone in Nigeria. He certainly would not let this slide, regardless of his bravado. He is merely a small-time thug, and Africa is teeming with such individuals. As long as the money is sufficient, they can be easily dealt with. Shen Hai, however, did not dwell on these matters. Instead, he pondered another issue and suddenly spoke. Mr. Shen, can we discuss our battery technology? Establishing a small-scale energy storage station combined with solar power would be a wise choice, yet the current lead-acid batteries are excessively heavy and have a short lifespan. If we can secure this technology, we could explore new avenues and prevent them from resorting to underhanded tactics. Shen Fei glanced at the system interface. Task progress, 22. Remaining time, 176 days. The progress has been substantial, yet it is still insufficient. Negotiations are ongoing. For now, our primary focus remains on resolving channel issues. Tomorrow, we shall see his choices. That young man is no ordinary individual. Perhaps he could become our agent in Africa, paving the way for the establishment of our security group. Should he agree, we must expedite the production of the T-80 series. Competitive pricing is paramount. In the dead of night, Shen Fei stood before the hotel window, gazing down at the nocturnal landscape of Lax. The city did not appear as dismal as it had during the day. The affluent district shimmered with light. Yet the dark shadows of impoverished neighborhoods loomed larger. The charging issue requires more urgent attention than the signal and is also more solvable. System notification. The detected data provides profound insights into the target market. Task comprehension improved, unlocking hidden information. Hidden information. The African market is fiercely competitive, not only from other brands, but also due to the extreme lack of infrastructure. Whoever can resolve the charging issue will dominate the market. Task reward. Graphene solar charging panels. Shen Fei's eyes brightened. While the system may have its quirks, it is indeed insightful. The solar photovoltaic industry in 2008 has doubled compared to last year. If we can seize this opportunity, we could leverage the economic crisis's infrastructure projects to emerge as a true technology giant. At that point, mobile phones would simply be a secondary venture. Task progress. 32. The progress bar has increased, prompting Shen Fei to immediately draft a proposal for a high-end T-series mobile phone. Article title: The Techno T1, a national mobile phone designed for Africa. Core selling point: 10 days of ultra-long standby. A new battery technology is essential. 4 SIM cards, tailored algorithms for portrait photography specific to Africa. When we launch several phones simultaneously, with high-density battery technology and graphene heat dissipation plates, success is assured. While he was engrossed in writing, his phone buzzed with a message from Chunhai. Mr. Shen, based on today's investigation and further research, many regions in Africa receive ample sunlight, making solar power an excellent charging solution. However, current solar panels have low conversion efficiency and high costs. If we could develop a high-efficiency, low-cost solar technology, expanding into the African market would be significantly easier. Shen Fei replied, Engineer Chun, I understand. Leave the technical matters to me. Focus on the product design. I have prepared a plan here, and we will commence mass production upon our return. After putting down his phone, he reopened the system interface. 5 market share, 180 days. Time is of the essence, yet the path has been clarified. The following morning, shortly after dawn broke over the skies of Lax, while dining in the hotel restaurant, Shen Fei spotted the young vendor from yesterday through the window. He was standing nervously outside the hotel entrance, glancing inside repeatedly. Li Qing, please invite that friend in, Shen Fei said, setting down his teacup. As a reborn individual, he still preferred tea. Prepare a breakfast for him as well. Chapter 8. Securing the subsidiary amidst domestic turmoil. 5 minutes later, the young vendor was brought into the restaurant. He had changed into a relatively clean shirt, yet his hands trembled slightly from nervousness. Please sit. Shen Fei gestured to the seat across from him. Have you eaten? Yes, I have, the young man replied, though his eyes were instinctively drawn to the bread and fried eggs on the table. Shen Fei nodded at the waiter to bring over the breakfast. No need to be formal. Let us eat while we converse. What should I call you? Ade. Adebayor. He finally settled into his seat. Sir, you are clearly not an ordinary person. I pondered our potential collaboration all night, and I am in. As the waiter set down a new plate, Adebayor hesitated. But under Shen Fei's encouraging nod, he began to eat. His movements were somewhat awkward, yet he was quick. It seemed he was genuinely hungry. Shen Fei waited until he had consumed a significant portion before speaking slowly. So, Adebayor, the situation has changed somewhat today. The young man, gripping his fork, paused, his expression darkening. Yet he suppressed his emotions, put down his utensils, and sat up straight. Sir, if the conditions have altered, I can make concessions. My stall may be small, but despite my youth, I have worked in the ball market for 5 years, learned various maintenance skills, and know many people. I assure you, I am of value. Please do not abandon this opportunity. No, you misunderstand. Shen Fei interrupted him with a smile. This is better news for you. Adebayor was taken aback. Following yesterday's discussions, Transsion has decided to implement a new model in Africa. Shen Fei leaned slightly back, placing his utensils on the table. We do not intend to establish partnerships with large local distributors. Instead, we aim to cultivate local teams and establish our own sales network. The young man's eyes widened, and his heart raced. This opportunity seemed even more explosive than he had imagined. He was not merely seizing a small chance, but rather a chance to ascend to greatness. This meant Shen Fei's speech slowed, yet his words seemed to possess a certain enchantment, quickening Adebayer's breath. If you agree and pass my assessment, you will become the first officially signed employee of Transsion in Nigeria. No longer a small vendor or an agent, but one of us, and the inaugural employee, 001, in Nigeria. Adebayer swallowed hard, breathing rapidly. Sir, do you mean? Initially, we plan to open 20 directly operated stores in Lax. Shen Fei gestured for Li Qing to retrieve a document from the nearby briefcase. Site selection and renovations will be handled by headquarters. You will be responsible for recruitment and daily operations. Of course, the company will provide financial support and training. If you succeed, you will be employee 001, endowed with significant authority. He paused, glancing at the young man. However, this path will be challenging. You will face pressure from existing distributors. To be frank, our negotiations with them yesterday did not go smoothly, and tensions have even escalated. If you agree, our security team will temporarily ensure your safety. But I hope that by the next time we come to Africa, you will have established your own security system and made some progress. Adebayer stared at the contract. The words Techno Nigeria Employment Contract on the cover appearing exceptionally clear in the morning light. So these challenges are my test, he said, his voice trembling. Indeed. The initial trial has been passed, particularly in terms of technical skills, nodded Shen Fei. However, possessing technical expertise alone qualifies one only as an employee. To ascend to a managerial position demands greater effort. Should you successfully complete this task and demonstrate your capability to operate independently, then. He turned to the last page of the contract, pointing to the position field. The role of general manager of the Nigeria branch shall be yours. A hush fell over the restaurant, punctuated only by the distant sound of waitstaff moving about. Suddenly, Adebayo sprang to his feet, stepping back 2 paces, and before the astonished onlookers, performed a traditional Nigerian kneeling salute, placing his right hand upon his chest. Sir, I, Adebayo, swear to the Almighty that I shall not betray your trust. The young man's eyes glistened with emotion. Having sold mobile phones in the ball market for many years and handled hundreds of models, I understand which devices resonate with the Nigerian populace. I know where the foot traffic is abundant, how to navigate dealings with the police, and how to evade extortion from gangs. I am willing to dedicate all these experiences to Transsion. Shen Fei gestured to a nearby bodyguard to assist him in rising. The contract is for 3 years, with a base annual salary of 5,000 USD, plus commission for performance. If you agree, you may sign now. Adebayo scarcely glanced at the specific terms, flipping directly to the signature page and signing his name with trembling hands. For him, both the salary and the position represented a complete transformation of his fortunes. After signing, he inhaled deeply and inquired, Sir, when shall I commence my duties? Immediately, replied Shen Fei, glancing at his watch. It is exactly 8 o'clock. The security team will accompany you to the ball market to assess your inventory. The handling of that is your responsibility. At 10 o'clock, we shall convene in the temporary office to determine the locations of the first stores. Understood. As Adebayo exited, brimming with excitement, Chun Hai quietly questioned, Director Shun, is it too risky to entrust such a significant responsibility to a vendor we have only just met? In Africa, the wisdom of locals is more valuable than any market report, Shen Fei replied after finishing his last sip of tea. We no longer have the luxury of proceeding methodically. However, shortly after he spoke, his phone rang. The caller ID read Li Xiuyun. Shen Fei answered, his expression darkening. Young Master Shun, there's trouble. Li Xiuyun's voice was urgent, tinged with a hint of schadenfreude. The 3 major distributors in our country have united in a letter demanding a rebate increase from 5 to 42, or they will immediately delist all Transsion products. Furthermore, some media representatives have arrived at our factory, seeking interviews with us and, incidentally, with Old Shen. How much inventory remains in the warehouse? Approximately 300,000 units of the 100 series and around 150,000 of other models. At the current shipping rate, that should suffice for 3 months. But if the distributors truly delist everything, we. Chapter 9. Addressing domestic channels understood. The inspection team will return home this afternoon. I will handle everything upon my return, Shen Fei stated calmly. Is this truly the extent of their counterattack after days of deliberation? Their methods are utterly feeble. This was incomparable to the online reports and internal assessments he had encountered in his previous life. After ending the call, Li Qing asked anxiously, Director Shen, what about the situation domestically? An anticipated retaliation, Shen Fei scoffed. Zhang Mingyuan and his associates lack the qualifications and the strength to contest my project in Africa. They can only strike from within the country, hoping to use inventory as leverage to sever my retreat, but alas. Brother Wang, you will remain in Laxus to collaborate with Adebayo on advancing the store plan. Direct any inquiries to Director Li. Engineer Chun, you shall accompany me back to the country, as the upcoming algorithm optimization and the development of this mobile phone require your direct oversight. We shall return and eradicate those pests. Understood. 12 hours later. At the Transsion headquarters in Yangqing, the conference room was shrouded in smoke. Zhang Mingyuan, Li Xiuyun, and others were present, along with several representatives from the distributors, each bearing a grim countenance. Director Shen, it's not that we lack compassion, began Wang, the representative from the largest mobile chain in South China, Jasuda, flicking ash from his cigarette. The market is sluggish, and your brand's influence is waning. We need to maintain our shelf space, train sales personnel, and conduct promotional activities. Costs are a reality we cannot ignore. A 42 rebate is not an unreasonable demand. Anything lower would result in our losses. The other two representatives remained silent, but nodded in tacit agreement. Wang's assertion holds merit, Li Xiuyun interjected. Young Shen, you must comprehend the distributor's predicament. Currently, BOA offers rebates exceeding 35, alongside various subsidies. If we cling to outdated practices, who would want to sell your products? Ahem. Director Li, which side are you on? Chen Hai shot her a glare. Having experienced the journey in Africa, he was firmly convinced that following young Master Shen would lead to a bright future. I am merely acting in the company's best interest. Otherwise, those products will languish in the warehouse, and we might as well perish. Engineer Chen, do not be unreasonable. I am advocating for everyone's welfare. Shen Fei, seated at the head of the table, perused the official letter from the distributors, remaining silent. Li Qing calculated briefly, leaning closer to whisper, Director Shen, if we truly adhere to a 42 rebate, our gross profit on each T100 sold would dwindle to less than 2 yuan. This does not even account for shipping and after-sales. It would be akin to a flesh wound. I am aware. After a moment's pause, Shen Fei finally raised his head, scanning each individual with a gaze devoid of any anger. Yet Zhang Mingyuan sensed an undercurrent of frost. The lines had been drawn, and there was no turning back. The demands you present are unfeasible for Transsion. Please seek assistance elsewhere. What? Wang furrowed his brow, flicking ash from his cigarette once more. Director Shen, allow me to address you as Director Shen once more. You must consider this carefully. Our 3 distributors account for 80 of Transsion's shipment volume. Should we all delist simultaneously, the repercussions? He disdainfully flicked ash in Shen Fei's direction. Then let it be so. Shen Fei closed the folder and gently tossed it onto the table. The document slid slowly, finally stopping before Wang. I hereby announce that, effective immediately, Transsion will fully initiate a trade-in program for old devices. Any brand of used mobile phone may be exchanged for a discount on the new T100 series. With a maximum discount of 300 yuan, and all Transsion devices will come with a year of free warranty, including accidental damage. An uproar erupted in the conference room. Shen Fei, are you out of your mind? Zhang Mingyuan slammed his hand on the table. A trade-in for old devices? Do you realize the cost that entails? We already have minimal profit margins, and a year of warranty for accidental damage. Do you comprehend the after-sales costs? Business is not child's play. Old Shen, how could you? Sigh. He resignedly sank back into his seat, feigning a heartbroken elder whose incompetent successor had just decimated the foundations. A veritable burden. However, Li Qing applauded enthusiastically. This was nothing short of a brilliant marketing strategy. Feature phones were inherently durable, even with accidental damage. The volume would be negligible. The trade-in was mutually beneficial. The maximum discount of 300 yuan meant that the minimum value could be as low as that of a kitchen knife. Director Zhang, we are all seasoned professionals. There is no need for theatrics here. Shen Fei stood, leveraging his height to look down upon Zhang Mingyuan. The domestic mobile market will shift from being channel-driven to user-oriented. Rather than dividing profits with these ungrateful entities, it is far more prudent to pass the savings directly to consumers. He turned to the distributor representatives. You may proceed to delist Transsion products immediately. We will soon establish corresponding exclusive stores. You have not merely forfeited the revenue associated with the Transsion brand, but also the influx of customers drawn in by the trade-in offers, customers that were rightfully yours. Now surrendered to me. Shen Fei relentlessly struck at their team, and the once solid alliance began to reveal a crack. Mr. Wang's expression shifted. The previously silent Mr. Li suddenly spoke, inquiring about the disposition of the discarded mobile phones and whether Transsion could bear the associated costs. I have our channels for processing. As for the expenses, we shall indeed cover them, and we can even provide an additional 20 in promotional subsidies. What is it, Mr. Li? Have you changed your mind? Mr. Li took a deep breath, extinguished his cigarette with resolve, and stated, I agree, with a 5 rebate. I only hope Mr. Shen can fulfill his promises. Old Li. The world ultimately belongs to the youth. Old Wang, this time you have been overly greedy. Mr. Li patted Mr. Wang's shoulder. Mr. Shen, can we sign the contract today? Certainly. However, the trade-in standards must adhere to ours. Otherwise, you shall bear the extra costs. Half an hour later, the two willing parties left the conference room content, taking with them the optimized trade-in proposal, while Mr. Wang stormed out in fury. The conference room was left with Transsion's internal personnel, and Zhang Mingyuan, his face pale, remarked, Shen Fei, your obstinacy will ruin the company. Uncle Zhang, Shen Fei replied, I know you have labored alongside my father. I heard your son just acquired a sports car, worth over 7 million, yet according to bank records, your income over the past 3 years has barely surpassed 5 million. Where did the remainder come from? Li Xiaoyun's expression shifted. Last time it was her. And today it is. Young Master Shen, you have been investigating me? Not investigating, but necessary evidence collection. Shen Fei retrieved several documents from his briefcase. Deputy Zhang, you approved a marketing expense of 2 million from the company account last March, payable to Yangqing Mingyuan Consulting. The legal representative of this company is your wife. Furthermore, Mr. Liu. Chapter 10, Reclaiming Shares. The prices of batteries procured by the company over the past 3 years have exceeded the market average by 15. The actual controller of the supplier, Shanghai Electronics, is your brother. As all evidence lay before them, the conference room fell into a profound silence. These materials can be handed over to the authorities, or I may choose to overlook them. The decision lies with you. Zhang Mingyuan's hands trembled, while Li Xiaoyun slumped in her chair. They truly did not anticipate that old Shen would have trained Shen Fei so effectively, concealing it so deeply. By tomorrow, I expect to see both of your resignation letters. Shen Fei rose, stating, out of respect for your long service alongside my father, relinquish your shares. And let this matter conclude here. However, there is no longer a place for you at Transsion. With that, he departed the conference room without a backward glance. As the door closed, the sounds of Zhang Mingyuan's frenzied yelling and the crashing of items echoed behind him. Transsion should have been his. Shen Fei, that scoundrel. Why could he not simply enjoy a leisurely life? Now it is all lost, gone. Outside, Shen Fei remarked, Mr. Zhang, be mindful. Any damage incurred will require compensation at full price. Laughing heartily, he made his way to his office, though his mercy was far from genuine. This was merely the beginning. Upon returning to his office, he wearily rubbed his temples as a notification chimed in his mind. Monitoring indicates the host has successfully stabilized the domestic foundation. Expelling internal pests. Task evaluation. B. Reward issued. Deep skin tone portrait optimization algorithm. Additional reward. 30 professional investment team operators. Note, this team excels in global financial market operations, particularly in crisis arbitrage. Shen Fei's eyes brightened. September 2008. If memory serves, Lehman Brothers is on the brink of bankruptcy. With Huang Tianya at his side, he could emerge as a beneficiary from this crisis. However, with more individuals involved, the potential for greater profit increases. Shen Fei pondered and sent this news to Huang Tianya, who promptly acknowledged it and provided a brief report before resuming his activities. Shen Fei's original 10 million had now surged to 42 million. In less than a week, a 420 return. It seemed feasible for the terminal at Juchang to be secured. After perusing Huang Tianya's detailed report for a while, Shen Fei felt his eyes growing weary. So he closed the report and refocused on the task at hand. The algorithm had been received. The next step was to transform it into a product. Shen, summon all image algorithm engineers. We shall convene in 1 hour. Understood. Simultaneously, on Wall Street, the offices of Lehman Brothers glowed brightly. Though the executives wore solemn expressions, there was also a sense of relief, or perhaps joy. Despite this venerable investment bank, with a history spanning 158 years, teetering on the edge of a precipice, they had already secured what they were entitled to. As for the consequences that would follow, that burden would fall upon the unsuspecting investors. After all, investment carries risks. The implications of the fallout were of no concern to them. They had already indulged immensely. Yet, unbeknownst to anyone, a nearly bankrupt Chinese company was preparing to take a sip from the broth with a starting fund of 10 million and had already reaped substantial rewards. Investment Team Operation Record, September 8th, establishing a short position in Lehman Brothers Credit Default Swaps, CDS, with a nominal principal of $5 million, leveraging at 20 times. A mere $5 million could leverage $1 billion. If successful, it would yield immense profits. The financial crisis, a calamity for some, was a feast for others. Huang Tianya's task was to ensure that his boss amassed sufficient ammunition before the banquet concluded. At the Transsion Research and Development Center, which could more accurately be described as a series of offices, the conference room was filled with people. Alongside the hardware team, led by Chen Hai, more than 10 software engineers, poached from other mobile manufacturers or internet companies, were present. The faces of all were marked by fatigue and a hint of skepticism. They had been urgently summoned, as the young Master Shen was set to personally explain a revolutionary algorithm. Shen Fei stood before the projection screen, rolling up his sleeves to his elbows, his eyes brimming with excitement. Let us dispense with pleasantries and directly observe the results. He powered on the computer, connecting it to the projector, and 2 images appeared on the screen, portraits of the same black model. The left image was captured by a Nokia N95, one of the best performing cameras available on the market today. Yet, the model's skin tone appeared dull, details obscured, and in dim lighting, it was nearly indecipherable. The right image was similarly lackluster, captured by our T100. Shen Fei remarked, with identical lighting, the same model, and the same shooting distance, we indeed fall short. However, I aspire for us to achieve the quality of the image displayed next. The screen then showcased a new photograph, prompting a collective intake of breath from the room, accompanied by a wave of self-deprecation. Can we truly accomplish this? After all, in this new picture, the model's complexion is naturally radiant, features sharply defined. Even the details of her eyelashes are discernible. The overall image is transparent, entirely devoid of the common issue where deep skin tones appear as mere shadows. This is impossible, murmured an algorithm engineer who had jumped ship from Nokia. In truth, our team has studied the impact of ethnic skin color differences on imaging. Resolving this issue is exceedingly complex, necessitating a complete redesign of the LSP production line, and potentially requiring modifications to the sensor's optical filters. The entire process is intricate, often requiring cooperation from upstream suppliers. Customization would significantly inflate costs, leading our team to ultimately abandon the endeavor. Indeed, Shen Fei nodded, indicating that rather than modifying the hardware, they aim to resolve the issue at the algorithmic level. He switched the PowerPoint presentation, revealing a complex flowchart of algorithms. The traditional image processing pipeline was designed and trained based on the skin tones of Caucasians and Asians. Shen Fei pointed to the flowchart with a laser pointer, and the engineers in the audience began to show a hint of respect. White balance correction, skin tone detection, exposure compensation. Each step was unfriendly to deeper skin tones. For instance, he magnified one module. The facial detection algorithm employed a HAR feature classifier, with less than 5 of the training data comprising samples of black individuals. Consequently, under moonlight, it often failed to detect black faces, rendering subsequent exposure optimization impossible. Several engineers nodded in agreement. This was an industry consensus, after all, as black individuals who could afford smartphones were a minority, and having merely 5 of samples was already. Our solution is primarily divided into 3 steps. Shen Fei continued, flipping to the next slide. Upon seeing the detailed flowchart, the audience immediately furrowed their brows. The plan seemed overly ambitious. Chapter 11. The initial African beauty enhancement technology. Firstly, we must establish a facial database comprising 100,000 images representing various skin tones. with black samples accounting for 40. This data will then be used to retrain the facial detection model. Secondly, we must modify the signal processing pipeline. The flowchart displayed clear red markings indicating modifications, resembling an operational guideline, which piqued the engineer's curiosity. Skin tone recognition would occur at the raw stage, employing distinct noise reduction parameters and detail enhancement strategies for different skin tones. Black skin tends to lose yellow and red information in low light, necessitating early protection. Thirdly, and most crucially, at this point, Shen Fei paused slightly, anticipating the astonishment that would ensue. We also need to develop a color restoration network based on deep learning. The conference room fell silent. In 2008, deep learning was not an uncommon concept, yet it remained at the forefront of academia. Despite the various models boasting grand claims, genuine commercial applications were almost non-existent, and when they did exist, they were often mere facades to deceive investors, with authentic models being of subpar quality. A small, bankrupt enterprise like Transsion setting such lofty goals seemed improbable. The good news was that the CEO possessed some technical knowledge. The bad news was that there appeared to be little of it. Such ambitious endeavors would likely prove exhausting. And some engineers who had joined merely for the salary felt a twinge of hesitation. Observing their wavering expressions, Shen Fei smiled reassuringly. Rest assured, this deep learning model has already been developed, and the results are quite promising. Allow me to provide you with a detailed introduction. Amidst the shock of the audience, Shen Fei opened another PowerPoint slide, commencing a more thorough explanation. This network consisted of 12 layers. The input was an image that had undergone preliminary processing, while the output was the optimized skin tone result. We incorporated a substantial number of multi-ethnic portraits for fine-tuning based on the dataset. The network could automatically recognize racial and lighting conditions, personalizing the optimization for each photo. To further entice this newfound treasure, Shen Fei presented actual code. The structure was remarkably intricate. The algorithm's complexity was kept within acceptable limits. On a 300 MHz ARM11 processor, processing an 8-megapixel photo took only 0.8 seconds. If reduced to 300,000 pixels, it required a mere 0.1 seconds, fully satisfying the real-time preview demand. At this moment, the engineers were thoroughly impressed. Transsion seemed to differ from its advertised image. This was genuine technical prowess. Such processing speed could only be described as extraordinary. Even Nokia and Motorola would require years to develop a similarly impeccable algorithm. Yet Transsion had already achieved this. One engineer raised his hand, Mr. Shen, regarding the patent for this algorithm. Global patents are already under application, Shen Fei replied with a smile. Patents in Huagua, the United States, Europe, and major African nations had been submitted. Transsion would hold exclusive rights for at least the next 20 years. Shen Hai stood up excitedly. Mr. Shen, with just this algorithm, Transsion's photographic capabilities in the African market will overshadow all competitors. This is truly a killer application. Shen Fei completed Shen Hai's statement with enthusiasm. Another engineer suddenly realized and tentatively inquired. Mr. Shen, this project is not as you suggested, requiring our development. It has already been completed, correct? That photo was likely not manipulated, but rather. Therefore, what we need to do next is merely simple adaptation work. Engaging with intelligent individuals simplifies matters. Shen Fei stood, applauding. Precisely. This project has been realized. The photo shown was taken with a modified Transsion T100. However, having an algorithm is merely the starting point. Adaptation is equally vital. I hope everyone will exert their utmost efforts to swiftly capture the entire African market. Rest assured, boss, we will ensure the task is completed. I wonder if we might meet some of these industry leaders. We have a few questions to pose. Initially, some engineers looking to retire were now inspired by Transsion's hidden R&D capabilities. They too wished to learn and elevate their skills. At this moment, Shen Fei turned off the projector and illuminated the conference room. No matter how advanced the algorithms, they still require hardware support. As for our hardware, Shen Fei looked towards Chen Hai. Engineer Chen, what is the status of the engineering prototypes? Chen Hai, brimming with enthusiasm, promptly reported his progress. The T80 engineering prototype is complete, featuring dual SIM functionality and utilizing the MT6223D chip, which is priced at $320. The total costs can be kept under $20. The T1 prototype is still in debugging. That model with 4 SIMs requires certain optimizations for the motherboard, and the battery compartment needs to be enlarged. The MT6223D chip only supports calling and communication, with all other functions stripped down. It is positioned as ultra-low-end within MediaTek, but it is entirely sufficient for the African market. Time. The T80 can undergo small-scale trial production this weekend, with an initial batch of 5,000 units. The T1 will require at least 2 more weeks. Shen Fei glanced at the calendar. That's too slow. I will increase the R&D center's budget by 3 million. If personnel are insufficient, hire more. If equipment is lacking, purchase it. In 10 days, I want to see 100 units of each prototype for trial production. If that is feasible, we commence large-scale production. Boss, the funds are running low. New Chief Financial Officer Wang Shanghua and Purchasing Manager Lu Feng spoke in unison. In recent days, they had procured numerous materials for the T80 and T1 projects. To reduce costs, they had engaged in bulk purchasing. They had directly ordered 1 million units of MediaTek's MT6223D chip, negotiating it down to 0.20. However, MediaTek was also concerned about Transsion's ability to settle payments, requiring a deposit before agreeing to ship. Thus, the financial situation was indeed. Do not worry about the finances. The company will soon receive an additional infusion of capital. Then there will be no issue. After the meeting, Shen Hai caught up with Shen Fei, his eyes reflecting a hint of admiration. Mr. Shen, that algorithm was truly developed by your friend? Shen Fei gazed at him. Engineer Chen, some matters are best left unexamined. Just know that I have not idled away the past years. The current Transsion is not the same as last year. We now possess a technological moat. Next, we must swiftly transform it into a product barrier. He gently patted Chen Hai's shoulder, stating, in a month, the first batch of goods will be dispatched to Nigeria. The success of this endeavor rests upon your shoulders. For the following month, Transsion plunged into a fervent phase of research and development. The R&D center operated around the clock, with production lines working in shifts. Yet, the faces of all employees radiated joy, for Xiao Shun was indeed generous with his remuneration. Overtime pay was substantial, and even during late-night shifts, they received their wages before commencing work. There was no need for the production line supervisors to remind them. They diligently exerted themselves, striving to enhance accuracy. Chapter 12. Funding secured. T1 trial production successful. During this period, Huang Tianya consistently reported good news. On September 15th, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy protection. The CDS short position yielded a profit of 320, turning an investment of $5 million into a staggering $320 million. On September 16th, shorting AIG resulted in a 210 profit, and on September 29th, the Dow Jones Index plummeted by 777 points, with shorting stock index futures yielding an 180 profit. Although there were minor setbacks, by early October, bolstered by the financial crisis, the initial $5 million had escalated to $1.8 billion. While the bulk of the funds remained in the United States, $200 million found its way to his personal account through various channels. Simultaneously, Transsion's domestic exchange program achieved unexpected success. The model of exchanging old phones for new ones resonated with a multitude of feature phone users eager for upgrades. Although the profit margin per device dwindled, sales surged dramatically. In the first month alone, 260,000 units were sold, tripling the sales from the same period last year and clearing a significant portion of the inventory. Remarkably, some users directly purchased from Transsion stores, while others went to the 2 newly contracted distributors. As for the once aloof general manager Wang, he now found himself regretting his earlier decisions. However, other mobile phone manufacturers were not oblivious. For instance, Bodeo promptly followed suit, adopting a similar strategy. Their subsidies were even more aggressive, where Transsion offered a 10 yuan subsidy. They provided 20, with some even directly copying Transsion's promotional slogans. In the race to sell products, companies became embroiled in an arms race of trade-ins, resulting in fierce competition. Nevertheless, Shen Fei chose not to follow suit. After all, the initial goal was to clear inventory, and theirs was nearly depleted. The remaining stock could be managed gradually without the need to engage in a price war. On October 8th, just as Shen Fei settled into his office, Chen Hai's call came through. Mr. Shen, we've succeeded. The excitement in his voice was palpable, even crackling through the phone line. The first batch of T80 and T1 has passed quality inspection, with a yield rate of 92. Shen Fei, equally exhilarated, replied, I'm heading to the factory immediately. At the Transsion Factory Number 1 in the Bowen Industrial Zone, the production line was still in motion. Rows of brand new phones were being assembled, tested, and packaged. Unlike the previous T100, the new models boasted a more streamlined design, prominently displaying the Techno logo. Shen Fei picked up a T1 prototype, its dark gray matte exterior exuding a solid feel. Upon opening the back cover, he found 4 SIM card slots arranged in parallel, with a battery occupying nearly half the device's space, a specially designed 1,600 mAh super battery. Powering it on, he was greeted by a clean system interface. Nowadays, feature phones offered little in terms of entertainment. He aimed the camera at a nearby worker of darker complexion and pressed the shutter. The image appeared instantly on the screen, capturing the worker's facial details with clarity and natural skin tones, even under the factory's harsh fluorescent lights. The results surpassed those of the prototype. We optimized the LSP firmware for the mass production batch, significantly enhancing processing speed, he noted. Shen Fei then tested the T80, a slimmer model featuring only dual SIM slots and a 1,000 mAh battery. This phone was available in both T80 and T80A versions, with the A version boasting a 10-megapixel camera and enhanced algorithms that produced photographic results far superior to comparable Nokia models. Shen Fei's face displayed a hint of pride, though it quickly turned to a resigned sigh. Despite their efforts, costs had not been minimized enough. "What is the cost breakdown?" asked Shen Fei. Nearby, Finance Director Wang Xianghua reported, "The cost per unit for the T80 is $19.8, while the T80A is $28. The T1's cost is $34.7. If we achieve a production scale of 100,000 units, we can reduce costs by another 5. At 1,000,000 units, we can lower it by 6. The primary cost for the T1 stems from the battery, while the chip is the same MT6225 as the T100. However, the photo-taking experience between the two is vastly different due to the algorithmic enhancements. Shen Fei quickly calculated in his mind. According to the plan, the T80 would retail for $30 in Africa, the T80A for $35, and the T1 for $100. Even accounting for shipping, tariffs, and marketing expenses, the gross profit could reach 30 to 40. If they could sell over 500,000 units monthly, all problems would be resolved. Compared to the domestic market, Africa was indeed lucrative, provided they could address the challenge of photography in the region. "What is the stock situation?" he inquired. Currently, there are 30,000 units across the two T80 series, with the lower-tier model slightly more abundant. The T1 inventory stands at only 10,000 units. With full production, we can manufacture around 40,000 units weekly. Shen Fei nodded. "That is sufficient. We can hire another batch of workers and open 2 additional production lines. I feel confident that all 3 models will explode in popularity in Africa. We must ensure ample inventory." The marketing department was tasked with preparing for the launch event in Nigeria, scheduled for October 28th. As he exited the factory, dusk was settling in, and the autumn weather in Yangcheng was refreshingly crisp. A gentle breeze brushed past as Shen Fei stood at the entrance, watching the words Transsion Technology glimmer in the fading sunlight. Just a month ago, this place had been lifeless, on the brink of closure, with workers anxiously worried about job security. A month later, 2 products and 3 models were ready to embark on a journey to Africa, and the production line that had nearly shut down was now operating in full shifts. On October 27th, Shen Fei arrived once again in Lagos, Nigeria. This time, he was met at the airport by Adebayo and his crew. Dressed uniformly and standing at attention, Adebayo led the group, clad in a sharp suit, embodying the image of a successful businessman, a stark contrast to the street vendor he had once been. "Welcome, boss." As he led the way, the group echoed, "Welcome, boss." For your inspection. Their discipline was evident. After the welcoming ceremony, en route to the flagship store, Adebayo, with a somewhat hesitant grasp of Mandarin, reported, "Sir, all 20 stores have been fully renovated, and the store managers have been trained. The inventory of 50,000 T100 units has been completely sold, generating $2 million in revenue. However, most of the funds have been allocated to hiring staff and acquiring store spaces, leaving us with $2 million on the books. Additionally, local phone dealers are inquiring about when new stock will arrive. They are eager to become our agents or partners." Adebayo was confident that the results he had achieved would impress his boss. In truth, his success was not as straightforward as it seemed. The challenges posed by Wang Zhengwo had been formidable, not to mention the other gangs. Yet, with the assistance of professionals and financial prowess, they had ultimately subdued the local ruffians, which served as the best advertisement for Transsion. Chapter 13, Originating from Africa, Serving Africa. Congratulations, Adebayo, and welcome to Transsion Technology. From today, you are our first employee in Nigeria. I hope you will continue to expand our reach. I expect Transsion's monthly sales in Nigeria to reach at least 200,000 units. Adebayo, beads of sweat forming on his brow, was filled with excitement. Boss, I promise to fulfill the task. Tomorrow's grand launch event will mark your debut as a host, and I aspire for the name Transsion to resonate throughout Nigeria. Ding. Congratulations. Host, on capturing the general. Task progress, 90. Note, the African launch event will serve as a pivotal moment. Its success will determine the pace of task completion. A confident smile adorned Shen Fei's face. With only 10 remaining, the tasks would be effortlessly accomplished upon the release of the T-80. On December 28th, at the Lock's Central Square, which, despite its designation, was merely a desolate expanse devoid of infrastructure, the open-air stage for the launch was erected by Transsion. Yet today, it was teeming with thousands of ordinary citizens drawn by advertisements, every available space occupied, a sea of dark silhouettes. Security personnel strained to maintain order in the front rows, preventing the crowd from surging toward the stage. At 9:50 a.m., Adebayo, clad in a pristine suit, began his warm-up. The African branch of Transsion was poised to hold its inaugural launch event. All preparations were in place. The local event company signaled an okay. Mr. Adebayo remarked, "In my 10 years of organizing events in Locks, I have never witnessed such a turnout for an event, especially for a mobile phone launch." He glanced out the window, sighing in amazement. The area was surrounded by spectators, many still rushing toward the venue. Adebayo inhaled deeply. Just a month ago, he was a small vendor in the ball market, struggling to sell a few phones daily while enduring theft from gangs, leaving him with minimal profit. Today, he stood as an executive in a foreign enterprise, set to host an event that could potentially transform Nigeria's mobile market. Fate, indeed, could change overnight. Boss. Just before taking the stage, Adebayo approached Shen Fei once more. Everything is ready. Shen Fei patted his shoulder. Tonight, you are the star. Remember, don't just discuss specifications. Emphasize experience and value for money. This is Transsion's advantage. Understood. At 10 o'clock a.m., the launch commenced punctually, and as Adebayo ascended the stage, a wave of enthusiastic applause erupted from the audience. Although many were unfamiliar with the young man, the advertisements boldly proclaimed, Transsion phones, Africa's miracle device, dual SIM. Starting at 30, a brand new phone for just 30 was within reach for most, igniting considerable excitement. Good evening, residents of Locks, Adebayo began in Hausa, eliciting astonished cheers. I am Adebayo, just a month ago selling second-hand phones in the ball market. Today, I stand here because I encountered a company willing to believe in Nigeria. Techno Transsion. He swiftly transitioned to English. Transsion believes that Africans deserve better phones. Not outdated models from the West, nor inferior cheap products, but devices genuinely designed for us. Addressing our pain points, all at reasonable prices. A phrase illuminated the large screen. For Africa, by Africa. The applause surged once more. In Africa, we confront 3 major challenges: difficulty in charging, poor signal, and inadequate photography. Adebayo brandished a phone. Today, Transsion will resolve all these issues. As drums resounded, 10 models, 5 men and 5 women, all representing typical deep-skinned Nigerians, emerged on stage, each holding various brands of phones: Nokia, Samsung, Motorola, and the Transsion T1. Let us conduct a simple comparison, Adebayo directed, encouraging the models to take selfies with their phones, which would be projected live on the big screen. The models commenced the first round with the Nokia N73. Though the daytime setting allowed for some recognition, the projected image revealed a dull complexion and blurred details, prompting a chorus of disapproval from the audience. Nokia held the largest market share in Nigeria, and many were well acquainted with such results. The second round featured Samsung's J700. Slightly improved, but still unsatisfactory, with the model appearing excessively dark. The third round showcased Motorola's V3, which fared even worse, revealing no discernible details. When it was time for the Transsion T1, the audience fell silent, recalling Adebayo's earlier promise to address these pain points. How would it perform? Could a device from a developing nation solve issues that eluded the giants of the industry? As the black model on stage raised the phone and smiled while pressing the shutter, the next moment, stunning photos of the model appeared on the big screen, her complexion radiant and natural, her smile bright, and the sparkle in her eyes unmistakable. The quality was so exquisite it hardly seemed like it had been taken with a mobile device. Wow! The audience erupted in awe. Many female spectators widened their eyes, instinctively reaching for their pockets. This was no longer a mere compromise, but a selfie masterpiece. Outdated relics could be discarded. As the cheers gradually subsided, Adebayo seized the moment. This photo has undergone no post-processing. It is directly from the Techno T1 camera. How can we achieve such results? Because Transsion's engineers dedicated 2 years to researching 100,000 photos of Africans, investing hundreds of millions of dollars to develop optimization algorithms specifically for deep skin tones. He switched the PowerPoint presentation, displaying 2 images. Traditional phones misinterpret our skin tones as shadows, automatically reducing exposure. The T1 accurately identifies African faces, enhancing brightness and detail accordingly. He continued, in simple terms. Adebayo gazed at the eager audience, uttering the classic tagline, "The T1 captures the true beauty of Africans." The applause thundered, mingled with whistles and cheers. Some prepared audience members chimed in, "Transsion truly understands African users. We must support them. Those large European companies sell us trash. They have no regard for us, and it's time they learn a lesson." Chapter 14. The astonishing 4SIM, 4 standby functionality, but this was merely the beginning. In Nigeria, our base stations are somewhat outdated, with many areas lacking signal coverage. Conversely, we have numerous service providers, necessitating multiple SIM cards when venturing outside. Adebayo opened the back cover of the T1, revealing 4 card slots. Different operators require different cards, and everyone understands the hassle of swapping SIMs. If not properly stored, they can easily be lost, leading to further complications. Many in the audience nodded in agreement. Carrying 7 or 8 cards while navigating the complexities of obtaining new ones is a familiar struggle. While using them requires caution, it remains all too easy to misplace a card. The Techno T1 is the world's first 4SIM, 4 standby phone. No longer must we carry a bundle of SIM cards. 4 cards can remain active simultaneously, allowing for seamless switching. Use whichever you wish. This issue was comprehensively resolved. The audience erupted with excitement. 4SIM, 4 standby functionality was nothing short of revolutionary for Africa, where multiple operators abound. Many cross-regional workers in the audience were instantly illuminated. If the photography capabilities had been merely impressive, this was an exhilarating surprise and an undeniable reason to purchase a Transsion device. Fantastic! 4 cards can be accommodated without the need for swapping. Originally, the experience with the T100 was quite remarkable, and now the brand new T1 astonishingly supports 4 SIM cards. It is evident that this company is genuinely devoted to serving Africa, exhibiting a profound consideration for our needs. Furthermore, there is the issue of signal strength. As Adebayo observed the excitement of the crowd below, he proceeded to elaborate on additional features. Notably, the T1 is equipped with an enhanced antenna, boasting a signal reception capability that surpasses that of ordinary mobile phones by 40 in remote areas. We conducted tests in the suburbs of Lagos and at farms in Abuja, where the T1 maintained connectivity even when others could not. Another wave of applause erupted. It was indeed a miracle to be able to communicate in such desolate areas, often described as a green desert. While many cheered, there were still some voices of concern questioning the phone's charging capability due to intermittent power outages in the region. Adebayo smiled and pointed towards one of the audience members, acknowledging their question. He explained that the T1 is equipped with a substantial 1,600 mAh battery, capable of lasting a week under normal usage, and over 12 hours of continuous talk time. In case of power shortages, customers are welcome to visit our Transsion flagship stores, where we provide professional charging facilities at a nominal fee of $0.02 per session, with a monthly usage cost not exceeding $1, alongside 10 complimentary charging services. This implies that wherever there is a Transsion store, your phone will always remain powered. The screen flashed with bold letters declaring free, which sent the crowd into a frenzy, chanting that Transsion is indeed a commendable enterprise serving the African populace. This title is not unwarranted, as each feature addresses their most pressing concerns. However, A wave of apprehension arose from the front rows, with some audience members expressing doubts about the affordability of such an impressive device. They speculated that with features like 4 SIM card support and a large battery, along with exceptional photography capabilities, it would surely be priced over $200, making it accessible only to the affluent. Ada Bayer, overhearing these discussions, chose not to intervene, as many in the audience were his followers. After the noise subsided, he feigned a contemplative expression before addressing the crowd. "I understand your concerns. With such remarkable features, the price must indeed be high. Frankly, if priced traditionally, this phone would likely retail for over $800 if handed to Nokia." Disappointment rippled through the crowd, and some began to prepare to leave. However, Ada Bayer raised his voice, asserting that Transsion is a different kind of company, one that believes technology should not serve only the wealthy. Even ordinary individuals should be able to afford and utilize it if they wish. Therefore, we have decided. The audience, initially ready to depart, was captivated by this statement, pausing to see the conclusion. What if they could afford it? Ada Bayer continued to build suspense as the screen displayed the price page, obscured momentarily. The Tecno T1 would be priced at. The animation gradually revealed a staggering $100. A profound silence enveloped the auditorium, lasting several seconds, a remarkable feat for a gathering of this magnitude. Yet, the price of the Tecno T1 was equally astonishing. To express gratitude for the support, we are also reducing the price by 1 and offering 10 complimentary charging sessions. Thus, the final price is $99, inclusive of the free charging benefits. Cheers erupted, spreading like wildfire. Even those a kilometer away could hear the jubilation. $99? This cannot be true. A second-hand Nokia N73 still costs $200. For SIM cards, extended battery life, and exceptional photo quality for just $99. This is a price I can fully afford. As the excitement gradually settled, Ada Bayer signaled for silence. Indeed, it is $99. We believe every Nigerian deserves a quality smartphone, yet I understand that for some, even $99 may still be too steep. Taking a deep breath, he continued. Thus, we have another option. The screen unveiled another model, sleeker and more minimalist in design. The Tecno T80, featuring dual SIM card support, a 1000 mAh battery, and a 3-day battery life. The T80A version, optimized for photography, although lower in pixel count, still delivers clear images. Its price is this time, there was no suspense. The price quickly appeared, $30 and $35. This time, the reaction was explosive. At $30, this is among the most affordable entry-level phones on the market, with many second-hand devices priced higher. Yet, the Transsion T80 offers dual SIM support, optimized photography, along with Transsion's quality control and after-sales service. Chapter 15, Soaring Sales. All-inclusive Zhongming Yuan. These two models will go on sale tomorrow at 9 a.m. across 20 Transsion stores in Lagos, Ada Bayer announced loudly. The first 1,000 purchasers will receive an additional 20 charging opportunities. Additionally, Transsion promises a 1-year warranty for all phones, with only parts costs for accidental damage. Following this, we will hold an experience session for interested individuals at our booth. The models gracefully exited the stage, and the security team brought forth simple tables, ensuring the protection of the phones, as the local populace is known for their integrity. The crowd surged forward, exclamations of astonishment echoing throughout. My goodness! The photo quality is truly remarkable. It recognized all 4 cards. The feel is far superior to that of a Nokia, and it's reasonably priced. Shen Fei observed from backstage, peering through the window at the scene, noting that the African market is indeed more accessible than the domestic one. With lower expectations from the public, Shanghai, equally thrilled, remarked, Director Shen, although sales have yet to commence, I believe we have already succeeded. He was pleasantly surprised by Ada Bayer's talent in this area. The launch event was an undeniable triumph. It appears that being relatable is entirely feasible. Not yet finished. Shen Fei waved his hand lightly. Notify the factory to operate at full speed. Air freight is still too costly. All products must be shipped via sea within a month to Nigeria. Moreover, we have secured a capital city, but there are many other regions across Nigeria, in addition to opportunities in Ghana, Kenya, and Tanzania that can be replicated. Our goal is to reign as the king of Africa, not merely of a single nation. Understood. Li Qing nodded in agreement. That evening, the entire city of Lagos buzzed with discussions about Transsion. In bars, patrons compared the photography capabilities of the T1 and Nokia, with Transsion decisively outperforming. In the second-hand market, discerning vendors began inquiring about becoming Transsion distributors or franchisees. In the slums, young individuals calculated how much they needed to save to purchase a T80, eager for the envious gazes of others. By 10 p.m., a line had already formed outside the Transsion store, with eager consumers awaiting the launch. The next morning, as the offline stores opened their doors, a crowd of consumers had already gathered, prepared to purchase their phones. After finishing his tasks, Adebayo hurried to Shen Fei's side. "Boss, we did it." Shen Fei handed him an official employment report, raising his salary from 5,000 to 10,000. "Well done, but the real test lies ahead. Acquiring a lark is merely the beginning. The entirety of Nigeria is your battlefield. Within 3 months, I expect Transsion to capture over 30% of the market share. Ensure the mission is accomplished." Shen Fei nodded, gazing out the window at satisfied consumers who had purchased the Techno T1 and T80, while those in line envied them. Those not in line looked on with similar envy, returning to their tasks, hoping one day to stride into the Transsion flagship store and leave with their beloved phones. Ding! The Africa Launch Conference has achieved tremendous success. Task progress, 100. Market share in Nigeria, 5.3, expected to rise to 13 in the first month, and potentially reach 28 within 3 months. Rewards issued, high-density battery, energy density increased by 80, cost reduced by 30, and 1 mystery tech blind box. Would you like to open it? After a series of fortunate prayers, Shen Fei silently thought, "Open the blind box. Congratulations, host. You have obtained an ultra-low power consumption communication protocol stack. Standby power consumption reduced by 60, signal strength increased by 30. Congratulations, host. You have acquired the Black Technology Enhancement Center." Shen Fei's eyes gleamed. The battery technology and low-power protocol indicated that the next generation of smartphones could easily surpass 10 days of battery life, coupled with the well-developed deep skin tone optimization algorithm. The true Transsion flagship phone could soon be launched, establishing a technological barrier in Africa step by step. As Shen Fei prepared to examine the high-density battery and the mysterious Black Technology Enhancement Center, the system's voice sounded once more. "Congratulations, host. You have resolved the charging issue in Africa. Reward, graphene solar panels." What a surprise. Shen Fei had initially believed this reward would come only after the charging network was established and a certain number of users accumulated, yet here it was unexpectedly. Nonetheless, this was a fortuitous development to explore together. Black Technology Enhancement Center. Description: young man, this is akin to an enhancement center found in video games. Insert outdated or second-hand chips, and you will receive brand new chips with an overall performance boost of 20. Do not lecture me on physics. Newton does not exist in this space. This is a golden goose. Traditional chip production lines are simply inferior. We do not manufacture chips. We refurbish second-hand chips. Upon reading this introduction, Shen Fei stood frozen in place. Such a miraculous tool, even with the numerous system rewards he had previously received, he had never encountered. The capabilities of this system were formidable. The cost issues troubling Transsion would soon be resolved, and the Enhancement Center would play an increasingly vital role in the forthcoming smartphone era. Who claimed that Brother FA was inferior to Qualcomm? Shen Fei was the first to disagree. Meanwhile, far away in Yangcheng, Zhang Mingyuan sat at home, his expression dark as he stared at the news report on the screen. Transsion technology sparks a buying frenzy in Nigeria. He slammed his mouse in frustration. Impossible. How could this be? How could people in that desolate place afford smartphones? That fool cannot possess such vision. Yet the reality was undeniable. The scorned prince had turned the tide in Africa within merely a month. Just as he hurled objects in frustration, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Zhang, we are from the Public Security Investigation Team. We would like your cooperation regarding the allegations of embezzlement during your tenure at Transsion Technology." Zhang Mingyuan's hand slipped, and his phone fell to the ground. The once durable Beidou phone now shattered, much like his previously unassailable position. "Kid, you're ruthless. Far superior to your father." Meanwhile, at Lark, the team held a modest celebration with the local staff. Shen Fei took a moment to rest on the top floor. Huang Tianya sent him a text. "Boss, the line has been completed. To facilitate fund extraction, we only used a 5-fold leverage this time. The total yield is 4.5 billion. How should we proceed?" Shen Fei raised an eyebrow. 4.5 billion was ample for Transsion's next expansion. But having snatched such a substantial amount from Wall Street, it seemed he wouldn't be able to travel abroad for a while, having taken so much. That while might very well be eternal. Chapter 16. The Black Technology Recycling and Dismantling Center. Shen Fei's greatest advantage lay in his status as a reborn individual, allowing him to discern the correct path that would yield even greater results. Ultimately, he assigned Huang Tianya a new mission, to shift from acquiring funds to acquiring quality assets, bundling technologies and talent related to the electronics industry. Of course, investment could not cease, as the economic crisis lingered. This was the worst of times, yet also the best opportunity. Items once deemed unsellable were now on the negotiation table. As long as sincerity was present, they could be turned over. However, a pressing issue remained: Transsion's pathway to expansion. The previous funding shortage had been perfectly resolved following Huang Tianya's message. Naturally, the money could not be directly transferred back to the company. Doing so would only allow other minor shareholders to reap the benefits. After the Zhang Minyuan incident, he found it difficult to trust those individuals who had proven their inclination to follow the crowd, thus sealing their fate for elimination. Yet this was too unsightly and did not align with his principles. He required a more intricate plan. For instance, using these funds to establish a new research and development company, then authorizing core technologies to Transsion, or setting up an offshore company overseas to gain control over Transsion through cross-shareholding. Shen Fei smiled, recognizing myriad possibilities, with time on his side. The most crucial task now was to win the battle in Africa decisively and brilliantly. He dialed Chun Hai's number. Engineer Chun, the battery technology is secured. We will commence research on the next generation platform tomorrow. The goal is over 10 days of standby time. After hanging up, Shen Fei gazed once more toward the east, where Huagua lay, the root of Transsion's company and the future main battlefield. Yet before that, he needed to establish a sturdy base in Africa, one that could both advance and retreat, providing a steady cash flow and a technical testing ground for Transsion. Feeling the sea breeze, Shen Fei knew that after today, for all employees, Transsion would no longer be the third-rate manufacturer on the brink of collapse, but rather a new player with products, technology, and market presence. Ding. Main task updated. Seize the momentum. Task description. Achieve a market share of over 5 for Transsion phones in the overall African market within 180 days. Task reward. Recycling and dismantling center, capable of disassembling old phones into parts and restoring them to new. Failure penalty. Recycling investment team. Shen Fei frowned at the screen. Truly worthy of the human trafficking system. Even rewards could be taken back. Could it be that he lost another gamble? Regrettably, this system lacked the intelligence of his previous life, merely issuing tasks and rewards, a genuine artificial imbecile. Otherwise, he would have inquired further. Closing the system window, Shen Fei continued to ponder the task, achieving a 5 overall market share in the African market. This was a significant escalation from the previous single-country task in Nigeria, which now seemed like a novice challenge. According to the latest data, the annual mobile phone sales in Africa were approximately 90 million units. Thus, 5 equated to 4 million units. Transsion's current monthly sales had just surpassed 200,000 units, revealing a vast gap. However, that reward, the Recycling and Dismantling Center, similarly devoid of scientific discourse, the collaboration with the Black Technology Enhancement Center is simply astounding. Shen Fei found himself in a whirlwind of thoughts, recalling the research report on the second-hand mobile phone market in Africa. Each year, over 20 million discarded phones flood into the continent, predominantly from outdated models in Europe and America. After undergoing minimal repairs, these devices enter the market at remarkably low prices. The T80 alone cannot secure a competitive edge. The pricing of the T-series must be further reduced. The following morning, under Shen Fei's directive, Adebayo eagerly entered the reception room, his face still alight with the excitement from the previous day's stellar launch. Mr. Shen, yesterday our 20 stores sold a staggering 120,000 phones, of which he took a seat and briefly reported the results. Among those 120,000 units, the T80 series accounted for 70,000, while the high-end T80A comprised just 30,000. Boss, pricing remains crucial. If we could introduce lower-spec models, tripling our sales wouldn't be an issue. Shen Fei's expression shifted to one of admiration. He had indeed recognized talent in Adebayo, who was both astute and ambitious yet understood the rules. a true gem for the African market. While the sales figures were promising, the campaign in Nigeria had been commendable. It was still insufficient. I require you to swiftly capture the Nigerian market within 3 months and extend our sales network to Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. While numerous storefronts are not a necessity, we must establish sales points and ensure our advertisements reach shopping centers, residential walls, and even public buildings, making our brand, Transsion, known to all. Adebayo's expression grew somber. Operationally, that's feasible, but it demands substantial financial resources and manpower. Money is not an issue. The entirety of our initial funding will be allocated to exploring new markets. Shen Fei retrieved a report from the side and placed it before Adebayo. Moreover, Transsion is on the verge of completing a financing round, securing 280 million Huagua coins, with 100 million earmarked for the African market to facilitate our expansion. 100 million? Adebayo gasped. Just a month prior, the company was on the brink of collapse, yet now, the boss clearly possessed remarkable capabilities. Transsion is about to embark on a new era of scale and globalization, all under my management. Adebayo nodded, somewhat perplexed by the complexities, yet resolutely acknowledged his allegiance to Shen Fei. Your current position is General Manager of the Nigeria branch. Shen Fei presented an appointment letter once more. Upon the completion of financing, you will be promoted to Vice President of the African region, overseeing all operations south of the Sahara, with an annual salary of $30,000 US. Adebayo's mouth gaped in astonishment, momentarily speechless. It was yet another goal, an attainable one. But do not rejoice too soon. Shen Fei's tone shifted sharply, a reflection of his past leadership style, offering a sweet date while wielding a stick. With greater power comes greater responsibility. If, after 6 months, our market share in Africa does not reach 5, your position will be precarious. Should we achieve 10? Shen Fei paused. You will be the first African executive at Transsion, gaining access to the core decision-making body with the capacity to alter many destinies, such as transforming village dogs into Transsion's guard dogs. Adebayo blinked, realizing the boss was fully aware of his actions. They stood, placing their right hands over their hearts. I swear to the Almighty, I will not betray your trust, boss. Go forth and solidify our position in the Nigerian market. Once financing concludes, resources will flow abundantly. It is human nature to desire a better life for one's family, but work must not be neglected. Adebayo hesitated briefly before resolutely returning to his duties. After bidding Adebayo farewell, Shen Fei dialed another number. Huang Tianya, the plan is set in motion. Chapter 17. Huaxin Investment Takes Stake, 100 Control. A week later, at the Transsion headquarters in Yancheng, the atmosphere in the large conference room was oddly quiet. On either side of the long conference table sat the remaining veteran shareholders, collectively holding 10 of the shares. Opposite them was the representative from Huaxin Investment, led by Huang Tianya, a man in his mid-30s, dressed in a tailored dark suit, exuding an air of authority behind his small glasses. A thick investment agreement lay before him, accompanied by 2 lawyers and a financial advisor, underscoring his professionalism. Shen Fei occupied the main seat, his expression impassive, as if this investment bore no relevance to him. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust you have thoroughly reviewed the investment proposal. Huang Tianya began, his voice gentle yet authoritative. Huaxin Investment, upon investigation, believes that Transsion Technology's innovative model in the African market possesses immense potential. We are proposing a valuation of 400 million Huagua coins, with plans to invest 280 million, acquiring 70 of the shares. A collective gasp echoed in the conference room. 70 was not merely an investment, but a clear path to acquisition. One of the original shareholders, Zhao Jigang, who held 2, could no longer contain himself. Mr. Shen, we agreed not to sell the company. Moreover, this valuation, could it be a trap? We were just recently incurring losses. How has it suddenly become so valuable? Mr. Zhao, valuations are based on future potential, Huang Tianya interjected with a smile. Transsion's first-month sales in Nigeria are projected to exceed 200,000 units, with monthly returns surpassing $6 million US. At this rate, annual revenue could reach 500 million Huagua coins. While profits may be modest, our valuation is already conservative. Another shareholder, Li Ning, holding 3, spoke softly. Mr. Shen currently holds 90 of the shares. With the sale of an additional 70, our stakes will be significantly diminished. Though he knew he had no real power, he was reluctant to see his shares shrink further. Rest assured, Mr. Li, Huang Tianya replied, lifting a teacup to savor its contents. Mr. Shen is willing to dilute his shares proportionately. We are here to invest, not acquire. Your respective holdings will remain unchanged. This meant that after financing, Shen Fei's stake would drop to 27, but everyone else's shares, though reduced in quantity, would appreciate in value. Everyone began calculating. If Shen Fei's ownership fell to 27, Huaxin would undoubtedly emerge as the largest shareholder with significant influence, relegating the veteran shareholders to a position of lesser power. Oh, by the way, Huang Tianya seemed to recall something suddenly. Mr. Shen will personally transfer 2 of his shares to Huaxin, bringing our total stake to 72. At that moment, the attendees comprehended the blatant capital maneuvering, yet no one opposed it. Firstly, the financial offer was too substantial. Based on this valuation, their previously worthless shares had now multiplied in value. For instance, Li Ning's 3 stake, which might have only fetched a few $100,000 a month prior, was now worth 12 million. Secondly, the recent scandal involving Zhang Mingyuan, the former vice president, who was under investigation for embezzlement and commercial bribery, had become common knowledge. Everyone understood that this was Shen Fei's doing. As for the third point, Huaxin investment was clearly aligned with Shen Fei. Huang Tianya, an investor previously unheard of, suddenly appeared with an offer of 280 million to Transsion, and Shen Fei readily relinquished absolute control. The performance was so blatant that even the pretense of subtlety was abandoned. I agree. Zhao Jigang was the first to raise his hand. Having realized that aligning with Shen Fei was the path to prosperity, opposing him might leave them with nothing. I concur. Li Ning followed suit. The remaining 3 minority shareholders exchanged glances and gradually raised their hands. The motion was unanimously approved. Finally, Shen Fei spoke, his expression unchanged. Huaxin Investment is a formidable international capital entity. With their support, our company, Transsion, will enter a phase of rapid development and become more formalized. As the saying goes, without rules, there can be no order. I, Shen Fei, will not neglect anyone, and I hope everyone can keep pace. Of course, those who cannot keep up will have to be regrettably left behind, as we must move towards internationalization, where all aspects require rigor to achieve success. This is not a family business, but a large international enterprise. Of the more than 200 million in funds, 100 million will be allocated for expansion into Africa. While they are still unaware, we must seize the market. 50 million will be devoted to the research and development of the next generation of products. 30 million for domestic channel construction, and 30 million to replenish working capital. As Shen Fei spoke, he glanced at the few shareholders. Although they were once his benefactors, they now hinder Transsion's progress. Time has passed, and the era belongs to the younger generation. Mr. Huang, I wonder if Huaxin is still interested in acquiring shares. Your large group should not be lacking in this regard. If so, I would like to retire in peace. Upon hearing this, the conference room fell silent once more. Li Ning and the other 3 immediately turned wide-eyed towards Zhao Jigang. Realizing that Transsion technology was on the brink of a rapid development phase, and holding on to these shares would allow them to retire comfortably. However, they soon sighed in unison. A single misstep leads to many. They should not have heeded Zhang Mingyuan's persuasion and should have stood up to oppose him vehemently, like Chen Hai. I too wish to retire, remarked another minority shareholder. Although Li Ning felt a pang of regret, he silently nodded in agreement in the face of this overwhelming trend. Huang Tianya seemed well prepared, handing each of the 5 a share transfer contract. After all, they were once key contributors. This share transfer agreement was based on a valuation of 450 million, marking Shen Fei's greatest concession. They expressed their gratitude and readily signed their names, thereby enabling Shen Fei to achieve 100% control of Transsion technology. The shareholders exited in succession, no one daring to utter another word. Once only 2 remained in the conference room, Huang Tianya removed his professional facade and sighed. President Shen, your performance was somewhat unfair. Unfair? Shen Fei walked to the window, watching the departing individuals. They followed my father in founding the company, and when it faced difficulties, they thought not of weathering the storm together, but rather how to sell the company for personal gain. Zhang Mingyuan even sought to sell my father's lifelong efforts for a mere 200 million to a competitor. He turned around. Tianya, remember, do not play the saint in the investment market. Huang Tianya, a top investment expert with solid skills and expertise, would never make such trivial mistakes. Though he felt a tinge of melancholy, Understood. Next, we shall continue to explore the American market and provide capital for the company. Yes, besides that. Shen Fei pulled up a strategic map. The African region remains too chaotic. I need you to establish an offshore company in the Comoros Islands and design a multi-layer holding structure to ensure our funds can be repatriated. Chapter 18. Taking action to cut battery supply. No problem, Huang Tianya nodded, making a note. These matters were trivial for him. Just then, Li Qing entered, President Shen, domestically. Someone has already taken notice of us, and public opinion is starting to shift. Shen Fei opened his laptop and pulled up several news reports. Transsion technology, neglecting business? We're charting new paths. Playing with beauty filters in Africa. The decline of Chinese mobile manufacturers, and from domestic to African markets. Transsion's desperate situation. These articles came from several obscure domestic media outlets, lacking national prominence, but possessing considerable influence in the South, particularly in Transsion's home base and primary sales market. While these articles originated from different perspectives, their narratives were strikingly similar, lamenting poor sales and plummeting profits, claiming the company could not sustain itself, hence the pivot, asserting that it was on the verge of collapse and looking to cash out. They concluded with a warning to the public not to be deceived, stating that the guarantees associated with purchasing their phones only hold while the company is operational, should it collapse. Li Qing pointed out another report. Yesterday, Su, the CEO of Bold, stated in an interview that a certain company's trade-in program is indeed a commendable service to the public, prompting them to follow suit. However, he also remarked that a certain enterprise, when facing difficulties, seeks to escape, which is not the attitude of a proper business. Many users are now questioning whether our trade-in program is merely a means to clear inventory, preparing for a hasty exit. Additionally, a counterfeit phone manufacturer from Yanshan commented, Transsion is on the brink of failure, resorting to scraping by in that desolate African region. They are likely to collapse soon. Shen Fei, upon reviewing these reports, merely smiled. Let them laugh, he said. The more joy they find in their mockery now, the greater their embarrassment will be later. Shall we conduct some public relations work? No need. Shen Fei waved his hand dismissively. Our primary focus is no longer domestic. In 2 years, most consumers will have forgotten. These distractions are inconsequential, merely a source of amusement. Let us concentrate all resources on product development and market expansion. Once we achieve annual sales of over 10 million units in Africa, and once our technological barriers are so formidable that they cannot comprehend them. Shen Fei closed the webpage. Public opinion will naturally shift, and some astute media might even write about foreign enterprises forcefully entering the Chinese market. Who knows if domestic manufacturers can withstand it? Those people write whatever is trending. We need not concern ourselves with them. Just then, Lu Feng, responsible for procurement, called, President Shen, we have another issue. Lu Feng's voice was anxious. The batch of T1s we plan to mass produce next month has encountered a sudden notification from the battery supplier that their capacity has been fully booked and cannot fulfill our order. Which supplier? Desai Battery from Yangqing. They stated that an important client has reserved all of their capacity for the next 3 months and has already paid the penalty. Shen Fei's expression darkened. An important client? At this time, only a few domestic firms could secure Desai's capacity. Could it be that Huaxin Investment is up to mischief again? But what would Transsion have that they covet? Aside from those factories, what else is there? My memory of the old man does not recall anything of value. Understood, I will handle it. After hanging up the phone, Shen Fei turned to Huang Tianya and Li Qing. It seems someone does not wish for us to have an easy time. Should we investigate who it is? No need for investigation. It is clear, Shen Fei scoffed. It could either be Huaxin Investment or some of the other third-rate mobile manufacturers similar to us. Or perhaps even more formidable opponents. Everyone is struggling, and while we at Transsion are on the verge of collapse, we might just make a strong comeback. If we truly succeed abroad, returning forcefully to the domestic market would not bode well for them. After all, to the current consumer, foreign products are indeed superior. Tianya, initiate the contingency plan. Acquire a battery factory, and do it swiftly. Do not concern yourself with technological issues. Feature phones do not require advanced batteries. Understood. After Huang Tianya departed, Shen Fei continued to busily work in the conference room. In 2008, smartphones were just beginning to take off, and domestic high-end chips were still non-existent. The time for that event was still far off, and there remained opportunities to catch up with lithography machines. Although each step forward was fraught with thorns, It was far easier than being stifled in research and development. With him and Tongzi, this era's constraints would only be imposed upon America. Of course, the urgent priority now is to contact the Jew factory and acquire their terminal department. It is merely December. I estimate the discussions have progressed substantially. Yet, the financial crisis. Yes, the financial crisis. The last time it seemed that the sale plan was abandoned due to price undercutting by those two firms, leading to the factory opting to weather the storm independently, never again mentioning the sale of its terminal division. He cannot allow these inept individuals to jeopardize his plans. Just as he was preparing to reach out to friends, his phone vibrated. It was a call from his mother, Zhang Riyue. Shen Fei, your father is able to speak today, and he can express complete thoughts. He is inquiring about your whereabouts. Shen Fei took a deep breath. Mother, I will return to see father tomorrow. In the Longgang industrial zone of Yancheng, within the smoke-filled office of the factory director, Wang, who was in his 50s, chain-smoked while two individuals, Lu Feng and Li Qing, sat before him with ashen faces. Director Wang, we have been collaborating for 3 years, and Transsion has never defaulted on payments, correct? Lu Feng endeavored to maintain her composure, though she was seething within. Now, to suddenly announce a supply cut starting next month, with a wait of at least 3 months, is it not against the rules? Director Wang's forced smile belied the reality. Lu Feng and Li Qing were not naive. Their performance was woefully inadequate. Lu Feng, it is not my intention to complicate matters. I must heed the shareholders' words. You know how I hastened growth in the past. Now, rather than being a boss, I am more akin to a factory worker. The counterpart had secured all production capacity for the next 3 months from the major shareholder, prepaying 30 of the payment, even including penalties. What can I do, Sai? Who is the counterpart? Li Qing finally interjected, cutting straight to the point. Well, Director Wang evaded eye contact. I cannot disclose that due to the confidentiality agreement. Li Qing scrutinized him for several seconds before suddenly asking, Nokia, Motorola, Coolpad. Or is it a combination of these companies? Director Wang's hand trembled, ash falling onto the desk. The answer was evident. Understood. Lu Feng rose. Director Wang, over the years, Transsion has procured no fewer than 5 million batteries from Desai annually. Our collaboration has been fruitful. However, I will remember this incident. General Manager Lu, Director Li. I am truly powerless. Director Wang feigned a desire to stand and explain, but his legs felt as if they were weighted with iron, rendering him immobile. Once they departed, he spat disdainfully. That young master spoke personally. It is fortunate that Transsion can survive. Back in the car, Lu Feng anxiously remarked, this is dire. The T1 battery is a specially customized 1,600 mAh large battery, with no alternatives on the market. If Desai cuts the supply, next month's production plans will come to a halt. With the offensive in Africa ongoing, without goods, we are doomed. Li Qing sighed lightly. Their move was indeed ruthless, directly severing the supply chain. Even if Transsion rose in Africa, they would be unable to deliver products, and the situation would collapse. All prior investments would be rendered futile, leading to total ruin. Yet, with so many counterfeit devices domestically, eliminating Transsion, would it truly be beneficial? Could there be larger movements afoot? Chapter 19. Problem-solving and independent research and development of systems simultaneously. Huang Tianya was making remarkable progress. Within a day, he had shortlisted 3 battery manufacturers that met the criteria, all located in Yancheng. One was a Hong Kong-funded enterprise whose owner wished to retire. Another was a Taiwanese firm facing a broken capital chain and forced to sell. And the last was a local company with decent technology, but chaotic management and years of losses, along with some debt. While he was conducting a detailed investigation, he received a call from Shen Fei. Tianya, how is the project progressing? I have shortlisted 3 companies and am preparing for an inspection. Time is of the essence. Which company can take over the fastest? The local one, Xining Battery. The equipment was purchased 3 years ago. They can produce mainstream batteries with a maximum monthly capacity of 2 million units and some room for expansion. If managed well, they could reach 2 million. However, the problem is their debt, over 8 million, and workers have not been paid for 3 months. Suppliers are blocking the doors daily. There was a brief silence before further instructions came through. This company will do. Tianya, strive to finalize the acquisition agreement today. We can accept certain debts, but the price must be high, and speed is crucial. One condition, production must resume within 3 days. Complete the production line upgrade within a week to meet standardized production. 3 days? That is a bit tight. Huang Tianyao was taken aback. Provide additional funding. Shen Fei invoked his financial prowess once again. Increase workers' wages by 50. Double engineers' salaries, and dismiss the existing management. Inform them that if they meet the deadline, all outstanding wages will be paid in full, along with a bonus of 2,000 yuan for each worker. Understood. Huang Tianyao promptly departed from Huaxin Investment's location and headed to Xining Battery. Meanwhile, at Transsion's headquarters, Shen Fei convened the high-density battery team rewarded by the system, led by Wang Mingyang. Professor Wang, once Tianyao completes the acquisition, I need you and the technical team to assist with the production line overhaul. The primary focus is to resolve the 1,600 mAh battery issue. If that is not feasible, we can consider a temporary alternative of 1,400 mAh to expedite problem resolution. General Manager Shen, these are minor issues. There is no need for an alternative. I can absolutely devise the solution within 3 days. How about a more advanced 2,000 mAh battery? That sounds promising. A slight smile finally graced Shen Fei's tense face. Yes, it can be utilized in the upgraded model. Additionally, we will initiate the high-density battery project today. We need to expedite the development of this formidable weapon, aiming for a battery capacity exceeding 3,000 mAh. General Manager, this issue is also manageable. We have mature solutions available. We are currently experimenting with new semi-solid batteries. Once breakthroughs occur, energy autonomy will return to us. Then accelerate the process. Recruit material science PhDs to form a specialized team with no budget constraints. We aim to achieve breakthroughs within 5 years. Understood. Once the team returned to the office, Shen Fei immediately called for an emergency meeting. In the conference room, Transsion's management team had undergone a significant rejuvenation, with most members in their 30s and a few department heads even being young talents like Li Qing. However, their expressions were grave, having just celebrated funding success while now facing a supply chain crisis. Everyone was acutely aware of the situation. Shen Fei laid the issues bare on the table. Therefore, we must adopt a dual approach moving forward. I must extend my gratitude to General Huang for assisting us in resolving our immediate supply issues, but I do not wish to encounter this scenario again. Investors engage with Transsion to profit, not to assist us in cleaning up messes. Lu Feng, your supply chain assurance department will receive a significant reprimand this time. Do you understand where the problem lies? Lu Feng promptly stood, expressing her sincere apologies. Boss, our department has already reflected on this matter, and we are well aware of the issues at hand. Relationships cannot outweigh financial considerations. We must not let such trivial errors recur. Henceforth, no component will be sourced from a single supplier. Good. Our future strategies must be long-term. The acquisition of Xining Battery has been finalized today, and the relevant teams have assumed control and begun ramping up production. I have set a target for them. Within a week, they will supply 400,000 units, with monthly capacity gradually increasing to around 1 million units. Ensure all departments are well coordinated. The production director nodded and promptly began researching relevant components. Although the battery supply would be cut off starting next month, the current month's goods had already been delivered. Nonetheless, there might soon be inventory shortages, but fortunately, the marketing channels in Africa were under their own control. Transsion's expansion had not been overly ambitious, as they were only simultaneously exploring a few countries. Shen, aside from the new feature phone, the development of the smartphone project must also be expedited. In this regard, you may collaborate with Lu Jihong. Shen Fei turned to the newly appointed vice president of software, a former deputy from Nokia's systems team whom he had recruited through a headhunter. Due to the existence of the Symbian project group, his proposal to join the Android Alliance had not garnered any attention. Furthermore, the impact of the financial crisis had led to the entire team being laid off. In the future, Nokia would retain only the Symbian system, intending to use it to compete against iOS and Android. Without Nokia's participation, the Android Alliance was merely a farce. The amalgamation of these lesser players posed no threat to the Symbian system. Shen Fei understood when the future's mainstream would emerge, which is why he had Huang Tianyao pack them up and bring them back, but his aim was not Android. Mr. Lu, what is the progress on the smartphone system? Lu Jihong set aside the report in his hands. Boss, everyone willing to join our team has already come on board. We currently have a project team of 35 members. Regarding your suggestion to redevelop a system, I believe it is unfeasible. Our company, Transsion, is still too small, and no one will adapt software for us. I think we can conduct deep customizations based on Android One. 5. Focusing on optimizing performance in low-memory environments. However, Mr. Shen, acquiring the Qualcomm chips necessary for smartphones is currently quite challenging. In 2008, Qualcomm nearly monopolized the smartphone chip market. Although Brother FA has corresponding solutions, their performance remains mediocre, and compatibility is poor. Qualcomm still stands as the best option. For new players like Transsion, obtaining the latest chip supply qualifications is exceedingly difficult. However, Transsion is different. Shen Fei possesses a technology enhancement center with system rewards that can elevate MediaTek's chips to rival Qualcomm. Compatibility is not a concern for African customers. Having a smartphone suffices. As for a good system, such fortune is rare. We should initially utilize MediaTek solutions. Although performance is average, integration is high, and costs are low enough for us to establish a foothold. Once we achieve sales, we can negotiate with Qualcomm. Understood. Before the meeting concluded, Shen Fei added, everyone. The issue with batteries serves as a lesson. To become a true technology enterprise, Transsion cannot have its lifeline in the hands of others. From batteries to chips, screens to memory, and most importantly, the system, we must gradually establish our own supply chain. This process will be arduous and costly, but only in this manner can Transsion survive the next round of competition. After the meeting disbanded, Lu Jihong was kept back by Shen Fei. With the ecosystem yet to unfold, this was the prime opportunity for system competition. Even in failure, with the African market, Transsion could not falter. This time, it was Android that ought to fail. Chapter 20. Increase the money and bonuses. The factory is my home. Half an hour later, Lu Jihong solemnly exited the conference room. He did not wish to insist on the Android system, but feared failure. A system propelled solely by one mobile phone company would struggle to succeed unless it were Apple. Given that the Android Developer Alliance comprises over 30 mobile enterprises, which reduces the need for concern. As for the former employer's Symbian, that system was destined to fail. But now it seemed there was an additional possibility. Shen Fei was correct. This was indeed an opportune moment to expand the market. If one does not take a risk, would it not be a pity? Should he succeed, Lu Jihong would be hailed as the father of Hongmeng and leave a significant mark on the annals of technology in Huagua. For this goal, he must strive. Shortly after Lu Jihong's departure, Shen Fei leaned back in his chair, slightly fatigued. At that moment, Huang Tianya entered again, saying, Mr. Shen, the acquisition of Ximing Battery has been completed, totaling 7.35 million, covering all debts, with an expenditure of 27.8 million. The workers, hearing about the wages and bonuses to be distributed, cheered, and Professor Wang is already leading the team to renovate the production line. Well done. Shen Fei rubbed his eyes to relieve some fatigue. Please expedite the process. Additionally, arrange a meeting with the head of MediaTek's Huagua region for next week. The current chip prices remain too high, and we need to minimize costs as much as possible. Understood. At this time, Li Qing, who had followed Huang Tianya, interjected, Mr. Shen, we have discovered something intriguing. A digital blogger named Xiaobai Kaisheng purchased our T1 and seems to be planning a review. Should we reach out? Xiaobai Kaisheng? Shen Fei recalled the name in his memories from before his rebirth. This blogger was adept at purchasing counterfeit devices and had risen to prominence in the domestic digital review scene through a niche market. No need for proactive contact. If he wishes to review the device, let him purchase it himself. For the time being, our goal is not to develop domestically. Let us treat this matter as though we are unaware. Understood. After concluding the call, the two exited the conference room. Huang Tianya's demeanor had convinced Li Qing of his intuition. This Huaxin investment was undoubtedly connected to the boss, and the future ahead looked bright. Meanwhile, in Dongguan, Yangcheng, at the Ximing Battery Factory, Wang Mingyang was directing renovations alongside the production line. The workers, having learned that the new boss not only settled overdue wages, but also raised salaries and offered bonuses, were brimming with enthusiasm. The factory, once lethargic, had revived overnight. Boss, a key piece of equipment on this line has failed, and the renovation costs are exceedingly high, the factory's former technical supervisor hesitated to say. Worried that a misstep could lead to a fate similar to that of the management. Money is not an issue, Wang Mingyang replied without looking up. The boss instructed us to use the best equipment, adhere to the strictest standards, and ensure the batteries are reliable. After speaking, Wang Mingyang pointed to the design blueprints. Here, the winding process needs modification. The alignment tolerance for the electrodes must be controlled within 0. 1 millimeter. Furthermore, the temperature control for the liquid injection process must meet standards. The technical team leader, observing this younger yet technically adept man, felt a cold sweat break out. Could his intuition have been correct? Was this the one meant to take his position? Surely not. The new boss had just taken over, and not only was he cleaning house, but the management was also at risk of being replaced. This possibility seemed plausible. After all, the acquiring party, Transsion, had already undergone a significant purge internally. No, he must prove his worth. Brothers, let us work harder. We cannot let down the new boss's bonuses. I hear this is just the first installment. As long as we meet the production targets, there will be further bonuses. Brother Wang understood, and their team agreed to work overtime tonight to resume production by tomorrow. At 8 p.m., the renovations continued. Wang Mingyang received a message from Shen Fei. Professor Wang, you only need to focus on research and development. You do not need to pay special attention to frontline production. Your health is paramount. Wang Mingyang smiled. Mr. Shen, do not worry. It's just 3 days. It is nothing. He then returned to his work, as resolving the battery issue was the most pressing concern. Meanwhile, on the other side of Yangchuan, at the luxurious residence of Li Xiangdong, the vice president of Boda Mobile, he was listening to a report from his subordinate. Mr. Li, Desai has confirmed that they have cut off supplies to Transsion. They will definitely not produce a single phone next month. But they have already gone to Africa. Is it necessary for us to target them like this? Li Xiangdong swirled his wine glass, a smile creeping onto his lips, though it quickly morphed into a cold smirk. Foolish. Shen Guoming's son possesses some courage. At least more than Shen Guoming. Venturing to Africa may yield lower profits, but the competition is indeed less fierce than domestically. Alas, the business world is not child's play. A Transsion that has perished is far more reassuring than one merely muddling through in Africa. However, generally, we have received news that the new shareholder of Transsion, Huaxin Investment, has acquired a battery factory. Could there be some hidden agenda behind this? What kind of turmoil could arise from acquiring a defunct factory? I find it hard to believe that this investment bank will continue to support such a burden. Li Xiangdong's tone was laced with disdain. Let them flounder, in due time. When the battery production fails to meet standards, they will understand what does it matter if sales are good in Africa. I can make it so you cannot deliver. What if Xining's battery products meet the standards? If Transsion truly supports them, then what? Li Xiangdong set down his glass. The African market is so small, and the profits so meager. Transsion dreaming of sustaining a battery factory and a mobile phone factory with that level of sales is preposterous. Rest assured, that investment bank cannot perpetually invest in them. A day will come when they withdraw. Just as the Shun family is living comfortably now, they will one day regret their decisions. He stood up, informed the marketing department to announce our new smartphone next month, priced at $499, targeting entry-level photography. Reduced the procurement price for Transsion's 2 suppliers by another 3 points. I refuse to believe they cannot swallow that. Yes. After his subordinate departed, Li Xiangdong approached the window, gazing in the direction of Transsion's headquarters. Shen Fei, oh Shen Fei, your father could not outmaneuver me back then. What makes you think you can? A cold smile graced his lips. The marketplace is akin to a battlefield, and this war is far from over. He believed that with its current standing, Bolt's mobile phone would surely endure until the end. Meanwhile, Shen Fei suddenly sneezed. Could it be that some hidden force is about to strike again? Yet, what does Transsion possess that would warrant their attention? Nevertheless, recalling the phone call from his mother yesterday, Shen Fei set this matter aside. Whatever it is, with Huaxin Investment backing them, no scheme of theirs could create any significant waves. Tomorrow morning, I shall visit Nanshan Hospital. After such a long time of focusing on internal matters, I have yet to see the old man. Chapter 21. Visiting the Elder. Suddenly emerging Nanshan Hospital in Yangqing. VIP ward. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting a warm glow on the pristine white sheets. Shen Guoming leaned against the head of the bed, his pallor still evident. Yet his gaze had regained a certain warmth. His wife, Zhang Riyue, bore no trace of worry in her eyes. She was peeling an apple, her movements gentle and meticulous, leaving no corner untouched. Riyue, about the company, it truly is fine now. I've been resting for quite some time. Shen Guoming's voice was somewhat hoarse, yet he articulated clearly. Zhang Riyue paused for a moment before continuing to peel. It's nothing to worry about. Xiao Fei has managed it exceptionally well. Even if you had gone up, you may not have achieved such favorable results. During your coma, He not only stabilized the company, but also expanded into the African market. Africa? Shen Guoming furrowed his brow. Our foundation lies domestically. Why venture into Africa? Do you genuinely believe the domestic mobile phone market is as buoyant as it was 2 years ago? If we do not explore Africa, how can we survive domestically? Look at this. Zhang Riyue placed the fruit knife down and retrieved a report that detailed Transsion's achievements in Nigeria. She specifically mentioned Li Xinghua, who, as the secretary, knew Shen Guoming's preferences well. And this, she opened his notebook and played a video from the Nigeria launch event. The footage depicted Adebayo passionately addressing an exuberant audience. The crowd erupting when the T1 price was announced, an exhilarating scene that moved Shen Guoming slightly. $99 for SIM cards. For standby, what a clever lad. Even managing to fool me. In a short time, not only had he prevented the company from collapsing, but he had also discovered a new growth market. He was indeed a promising talent. Yet, the African market is not easily navigable. It is fraught with challenges. Shen Guoming sighed. It is indeed challenging. There are more local forces than at home, yet Shen Fei seems to have found a way to manage it. Zhang Riyue produced another set of sales data, which had been sent over by Li Xinghua a few days prior. In Nigeria, the first month's sales have already exceeded 250,000 units, with nearly $8 million in revenue. Currently, Transsion has over 20 stores in Lagos, with long queues and a scarcity of devices. However, these funds have been reinvested into further market expansion. It appears they have entered several new countries. I am not entirely sure. You can see for yourself. Shen Guoming took the report, flipping through the financial statements, product information, and market analysis. His fingers moved rapidly across the pages, and the more he read, the more astonished he became. Beyond expansion, they had raised 280 million, with a valuation of 400 million Huawei currency. Yet, such financing seems to disregard control of equity now. The situation is not so simple. Suddenly, a thought crossed his mind. Could it be that his son, who had been indulging in nightlife and flashy cars, had been deceived? Old Shen Fei has grown up. Zhang Riyue sighed softly, as if reminiscing. During your more than a month of absence, he has transformed, dealing with the pests like Zhang Mingyuan, stabilizing the channel partners, and achieving an impressive feat in Africa. Upon mentioning Zhang Mingyuan, Shen Guoming's expression darkened. This was an old guard who had been with him since the company's inception. He had chosen to turn a blind eye to some minor issues. Did something transpire during his coma? Mingyuan is suspected of embezzlement, with a case filed for over 8 million. Zhang Riyue stated calmly. Yet a look of disdain crossed her face. Some people, upon seeing you unwell, conspired to sell the company. I had warned you about their unreliability. Yet you still clung to brotherly bonds. In this world, there is no such thing as true kinship. Only family can be trusted. Afterward, Shen Fei provided all evidence to the police, and the investigation is currently underway. Do not blame Shen Fei for this. It is Zhang Mingyuan who acted unethically. And you bear some responsibility as well. If Shen Fei were incapable, the company would have long since changed its name. With that, Zhang Riyue gently patted Shen Guoming's shoulder. Shen Guoming remained silent for a long while. Zhang Mingyuan truly was an elder, the successor he had chosen, even granting him some shares. Though somewhat greedy, he could not believe that the other would resort to selling the company. Yet reason told him that his wife and son would not wrongfully accuse anyone. Zhao Jigang, Li Ning, and others had also chosen to leave. When Shen Fei brought in new investors, they opted to withdraw. The new investor, Huaxin Investment, acquired over 70 of the shares. Zhang Riyue paused briefly. Old Shen, I suspect that Huaxin Investment, they may be Shen Fei's people. Though unsure of how he managed this, my sixth sense tells me that my intuition is not wrong. Shen Guoming was taken aback, then shook his head and chuckled bitterly. This lad is playing the capital game. Do not worry. He has left you with over 20 of the shares, Zhang Riyue reassured. Major decisions require your signature. After all, Transsion is still yours. Shen Guoming felt a lump in his throat. Observing this, Zhang Riyue continued, but what constitutes a major matter is determined by Shen Fei. Shen Guoming smiled again. Indeed, a person of stature does not dither. One could see that from the moment he dealt with Zhang Mingyuan. Moreover, he had fallen ill and still wished to return to manage the company. Wouldn't it be better to rest at home and enjoy tea? Most importantly, he truly could not keep up. Perhaps it would be better to engage in a leisurely game of chess. By the way, Shen Fei is no longer young. He should settle down. After playing for so many years, he has yet to bring anyone home. Perhaps it is time to inform him about that childhood engagement? It feels a bit awkward, but the protagonist certainly needs a background. Zhang Riyue hesitated for a moment. Indeed, Shen Fei had a betrothal. Though it began not from his generation, but from Shen Guoming's, as both families had only sons at the time. The two elderly gentlemen, contemplating their situation, ultimately decided to extend their plans to their grandchildren. In their childhood, Shen Fei and the little princess of the Zhang family indeed crossed paths. Yet that encounter occurred over 2 decades ago. Since Zhang Shiqing moved to the capital, the two families had not met again. She feared the implications concerning Zhang. This matter is still. Rest assured, I have maintained contact with old Zhang. He has frequently mentioned this issue. However, I initially hesitated to engage in conversation with him about it. At the beginning of the year, old Zhang shared some good news with me. He mentioned that there is a possibility of being assigned to. If all goes well, it should be in Guangnan province. Now, our Shen Fei can be regarded as a promising young talent. Who knows, he might even become a billionaire. Once we receive confirmation, we will. At that moment, the hospital room door swung open. Shen Fei entered, carrying a fruit basket and a brand new T1. Upon seeing his father reclining in bed, the young man momentarily froze. Dad, you. Shen Fei. Shen Guoming beckoned him to sit. Shen Fei placed his belongings down and took a seat beside the hospital bed. It had been over a month since their last meeting. His father had lost considerable weight, yet the vitality in his eyes remained. Your mother has informed me about the situation in Africa. Shen Guoming observed him intently. You are doing well. Those simple 4 words made Shen Fei's eyes prick with emotion. He had received his father's affirmation. How are things back home? I heard that some enterprises are suppressing you and even cutting off your supply chain. Chapter 22. Hospital Visit. Some minor troubles have already been resolved. Shen Fei replied nonchalantly, as if these matters were of little consequence. We acquired Xining Battery, restoring the supply chain. Furthermore, the newly joined Huaxin investment will fully support Transsion. Shen Guoming scrutinized Shen Fei for a moment before abruptly inquiring, what is your relationship with Huaxin investment? Shen Fei had not anticipated such a direct question from his father and hesitated for a moment before responding. They are the investment partner I sought out. I trust them. We have signed a mutual agreement. Trust them? That might not be entirely accurate, Shen Guoming chuckled. The investors hold 75% control while allowing you to retain 25% and even granting me decision-making authority. Although it is nominal, my son, I am not yet senile. Such terms, unless it involves your father, are improbable with anyone else. The room fell silent for a few seconds. Old Shen, your child's actions must have their own arrangements. Do not fret unnecessarily. Mom, that is still Dad's hard work. It is only right to inquire further. Shen Fei ultimately chose to be forthright. Dad, the owner of Huaxing, is me. Although Zhang Riyue had her suspicions, hearing her son admit it outright left her speechless. The revelation was astonishing. That was an investment of 280 million. The battery factory alone likely cost tens of millions. And that was merely the surface. The actual financial chain was likely astronomical. Where did you acquire such a substantial amount of money? Financial investments. You are aware of the economic crisis, right? I made a bit of profit. Shen Fei vaguely brushed it aside, despite the A-share market being still a field of chives. He did not want his father to fall prey to such ailments. Dad, that is not important. What truly matters is that Transsion now possesses funding, technology, and market presence. In the coming year, we will enter a phase of rapid development, ultimately becoming a dominant force in Africa, and then we shall return in glory. A year? Shen Guoming interrupted, using his own reasoning to analyze the situation. Xiao Fei, do you know who Li Xiangdong of Bodeo is? Back in the day, both Li and I were in charge of Bodeo. However, he used some underhanded tactics to oust me, which led me to establish Transsion technology. But later, when I competed with him in the South China market, I faced him thrice and lost twice. The only victory was a narrow one that yielded no profit. This man is ruthless and sharp-eyed. Now that he has the chance with my illness, he won't let it slide. I understand. Shen Fei nodded, yet his expression remained confident. Thus, we must run faster, ensuring the two companies are incomparable. Once we achieve annual sales in the millions in Africa and establish our technological barriers, he will be unable to act against us. Moreover, he won't be able to smile for long. Bodeo must transition quickly, or they will face the risk of bankruptcy in the forthcoming era of smartphones. As Shen Guoming observed his son as confidence, he momentarily envisioned his younger self. However, the steadiness, decisiveness, and foresight of his son surpassed his own. He possessed Li Xiangdong's fierceness, yet complemented it with his own gentleness. Such a person was destined for greatness. But why had he not noticed this before? What are your plans moving forward? In the short term, we will solidify our position in the African market, aiming to capture 20% market share by next year. Simultaneously, we will launch the smartphone project, leveraging the African market to develop our new system. Long term, Shen Fei paused briefly before articulating his grand vision to establish our own chip design department, thereby achieving a complete industrial chain from design to production. Chips, systems. Shen Guoming was taken aback. He recognized that his son's ambitions were no small feat, yet he had not anticipated them to be so grand, even bordering on the incredible. Do you realize how much investment that requires? Transsion's entire fortune wouldn't suffice to purchase a second-hand production line, and having money does not guarantee acquisition. Not enough now. But that does not imply it will always be insufficient, nor that it cannot be achieved in the future. Shen Fei's gaze was resolute. He believed his capabilities would surely alleviate these concerns. After all, if they could manage the Recycling and Dismantling Center and the Black Technology Enhancement Center, how difficult could it be to establish a chip production line? Dad, you must have heard of Fruit, right? Last year, they sold 13 million Fruit smartphones, while Nokia sold 460 million feature phones. But what about 10 years from now? I can confidently assert that smartphones will replace feature phones. Those who master the core technology will survive. While Transsion's pursuit of mobile phone chips may seem delusional, we can start from design and accumulate IP. In 5 years, 10 years, someday Transsion phones will utilize our own chips. Most importantly, if we do not endeavor to pursue this, it will never come to fruition. Shen Guoming fell silent. This goal was monumental and distant, resembling a fairy tale. Yet, gazing into his son's eyes, he suddenly felt, perhaps it was indeed possible. Go ahead and pursue it, Shen Guoming ultimately declared. At home, your mother is there for you. As for the company, let me handle certain matters, especially those involving Zhang Mingyuan. You are not suited for. Dad, Shen Fei's emotions fluctuated slightly. This was clearly urging him to venture forth, to bear the blame. Remember this, Shen Guoming grasped his son's hand firmly. In business, like on the battlefield, you can afford to lose products, but never your character. Regarding Zhang Mingyuan's matters, the evidence is conclusive. Handle it as it should be. If others are involved, they must be dealt with as well. If some wish to use this incident for retaliation, your father is still here. They will not bully my son. Shen Fei nodded gravely. As he departed the hospital room, it was Zhang Riyue who escorted him to the door. Mom, how is Dad's health? The doctor said he is recovering well. After 2 more weeks of observation, he will be discharged. Zhang Riyue adjusted her son's collar. Xiao Fei, your father may not express it verbally, but he is proud of you. Earlier, when he watched the Africa press conference video, he nearly cried. Shen Fei's nose twitched slightly, and he nodded earnestly, softly affirming. By the way, you must promise me one thing, Zhang Riyue said seriously, and Shen Fei lowered his head. Regardless of the circumstances, prioritize your safety. Do not overexert yourself in business. This incident with your father has made me realize that money is never-ending, but life is singular. I understand, Mom. Actually, Zhang Riyue hesitated once more. The hesitance in his actions made Shen Fei anxious. Was his father's recovery not as promising as his mother had claimed? Was this merely a fleeting moment of clarity? Could it be that his father was beyond saving? He brushed aside such thoughts, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. It was nothing significant, actually, there was an unwed fiancée, one he had met long ago. Over 20 years had passed since then, and their relationship had been quite amicable. Perhaps it was time to reconnect. Shen Fei opened his mouth in disbelief, eyes wide. Over 20 years ago, he had barely reached puberty. A fiancé? Chapter 23. A new market in Tanzania. Old Zhang had done well. The young lady possessed an air of grace befitting a noble woman. I trust a mere glance would suffice to. Mother, work comes first. Before Zhang Riyue could finish speaking, Shen Fei had already turned on his heel and departed. As he hurried back, the system's alert echoed once more. Warning, malicious competitive behavior detected from rivals. Bowden Mobile has collaborated with 3 suppliers to implement a comprehensive supply cut against Transsion, including MediaTek. The crisis is expected to erupt within 6 months. Shen Fei's gaze turned icy. Li Xiangdong would not relent easily, but this time he was no longer the helpless individual he had been a month ago. If they wished to play, he would engage fully. He dialed purchasing manager Lu Feng's number. Lu Feng, Notify all suppliers of a meeting tomorrow. We are releasing a $10 million order. I trust they will make the right choice. After ending the call, he connected with Secretary Li Song. Uncle Li, prepare materials for the protection department. I intend to sue Bowden Mobile for unfair competition. Mr. Shen, the evidence may be insufficient. Evidence will be available. A hint of ruthlessness flickered in Shen Fei's words. They were severing our supply chain. We would undermine theirs. Inform the HR department that Bowden Mobile's technical team will see their salaries doubled, with project options available upon joining. We have just secured funding. We have the means. Understood. After concluding the call, he gazed ahead as the view of Nanshan Hospital faded. Yet, the subject of the fiancé lingered in his thoughts. Home may be a warm haven, but the marketplace is a frigid battleground, and he sensed that this fiancé's background might not be as simple as it appeared. After all, the Shen family had once enjoyed prestige. A well-behaved daughter would align with his expectations for a partner. However, the pressing concern was Transsion's expansion in Africa. He would let fate take its course. 2 months later, in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, at the National Conference Square. At 2 p.m., the Grand Hall, capable of accommodating over 10,000 attendees, was filled to capacity. Unlike the previous launch in Lagos, today's audience included not only ordinary consumers, but also representatives from over 20 African nations, and even several ministers of communications. Backstage, Adebayo adjusted his tie, looking noticeably slimmer than 2 months prior, yet his eyes radiated vitality and composure. Clad in a tailored dark gray suit, he sported a golden badge representing Transsion's African division. Vice President Adebayo, all attendees have arrived, his assistant reported as he entered the room. Are the live viewership numbers in? 17 TV stations across Africa are broadcasting live, with expected viewership surpassing 3 million, covering over 40% of the population. Has the boss arrived? Just reached the VIP room. Adebayo took a deep breath and stepped out of the makeup room. Meanwhile, in a lavishly decorated conference room, Shen Fei was conversing with the Tanzanian minister. Mr. Shen, you have brought truly excellent products to Africa, the minister, in his 50s, sincerely remarked. Previously, we were limited to outdated phones from Europe and America, which had poor signal, battery life, and camera quality. Now, with Transsion, both my assistant and I are using your devices. The minister produced his phone for Shen Fei to see. Before he could elaborate, Shen Fei had already deduced his intentions. This is what Transsion ought to do. Shen Fei donned a charming smile. Yet a glint of calculation flickered in his eyes. The delay for this launch stemmed from certain nations' interference. To now feign enthusiasm was utterly ridiculous. We plan to establish a dedicated assembly plant in Tanzania next year, creating at least 2,000 jobs. We also intend to source some simple components locally. Minister, we should strategize well. Perhaps we can cultivate the local electronics industry through this opportunity. Additionally, Transsion's digital inclusion program will be piloted in Tanzania, where for every phone sold, we will donate 1 hour of talk time to schools in remote areas, allowing them to experience the joys of technology. The minister's eyes lit up at Transsion's proactive approach. He had not anticipated such ambition from this young man. This is a magnificent plan, and the Tanzanian government will fully support it. However, he inquired about the projected output of the assembly plant and any expansion plans, along with associated factories. Shen Fei felt a twinge of disdain at such probing, but remained cooperative. Most components can be sourced locally, provided they pass our quality certification. To reciprocate for Tanzanian users, we must minimize costs, making local procurement the best option. I believe we can achieve profound cooperation to foster the relevant industry. Some individuals truly take advantage of every opportunity. Yet Tanzania is undeniably a market that cannot be overlooked. However, the industrial scale and equity structure here must be optimized once more. As the meeting wrapped up, Shen Fei approached Adebayo. Ready? Ready, Adebayo nodded. Boss, we are no longer naive. With our established sales system, pre-orders for the Power Max have surpassed 100,000 units. With 50,000 from Nigeria and the remainder from other African nations, this launch will surely be a resounding success. Shen Fei was not surprised. Although the Power Max did not feature a high-density battery, its 2,800 mAh capacity was formidable, with a theoretical standby time of 22 days. It boasted 4 SIM slots, advanced skin tone optimization algorithms, and a 1,000,000-pixel camera. Thanks to previous promotions, this phone had already earned the title of the new African Marvel. The total cost of the Power Max was $50, with an anticipated retail price of $150. This price positioned it within the mid to high range for the African market. Yet no comparable competitor could rival it. It was truly the king of value. Proceed as planned. Shen Fei patted Adebayo's shoulder. After tonight, Transsion will no longer be merely a regional brand, but a global name. Understood. At precisely 2 p.m., the launch commenced. A meticulously crafted short film began to play on the open-air stage. The sunrise over the African savanna, the bustling streets of the city, the smiles of children in slums. In the footage, people were seen holding Transsion phones. As the film concluded, a line of text appeared. Transsion Mobile, the exclusive phone crafted for Africans. 2009. The new series, Techno Power Max, charging the world. Amidst the applause, Adebayo took the stage, his demeanor noticeably steadier than 2 months prior, his English pronunciation markedly improved. Good afternoon, Africa. Good afternoon, world. He greeted the audience in both English and French, eliciting cheers, as the crowd here predominantly spoke French due to historical reasons. Thus, he continued primarily in French. 2 months ago, we launched the brand new T1 and T80 series in Lagos, Adebayo smiled. As of now, the cumulative sales of 2 mobile phones in Africa have surpassed 1.2 million units, accounting for over 20 of the continent's new mobile phone shipments. These 2 models have introduced high-quality smartphones to over 1 million individuals for the first time. However, many friends have inquired, can we expect enhanced battery life, greater durability, and more powerful features? After a moment of suspense, the speaker surveyed the audience, witnessing their eager expressions, and proclaimed, today, Transsion's answer is. On the large screen, a deep space gray phone slowly rotated, showcasing a more robust design while retaining a plastic frame with notable upgrades inside. The exterior featured a unique wave-patterned anti-slip design. Introducing the Techno Power Max. Applause and cheers erupted instantly, as this device had already made its official debut in the prime display area more than 20 days prior. With many attendees having had the opportunity to experience its heft, the staff informed them that the battery life could last up to 3 weeks, though regrettably, it was not yet available for purchase, as these were promotional display units. The price would see only a slight increase, while the overall experience had been significantly enhanced. I know what you were curious about. Adebayo raised the phone. Battery life? Official data indicates 12 days of normal use and 22 days on standby. However, in our actual testing in the Masai Mara of Kenya, a fully charged Power Max lasted an astonishing 19 days before shutting down. The large screen displayed a video of the testing, featuring the Power Max capturing wildlife in the savannah, along with occasional photographs and phone calls. On day 19, the battery finally succumbed. Charging once a month is incredibly advantageous for those working outdoors for extended periods. 19 days? Someone in the audience exclaimed excitedly, my Nokia lasts only 3 days. Techno T1 lasts about 10 days. But the Power Max is truly impressive. Yet, this is not all. Adebayo switched to a PowerPoint presentation, revealing even more astonishing data. The Power Max features a newly developed signal amplifier. With the same signal at the same distance, it can reach farther. Compared to the Techno T1, the signal range has increased by 30. Shen Fei in the audience displayed confidence, knowing this was a system-enhanced signal feature, albeit a reduced version, still capable of competing with other products in Africa. We tested it at an altitude of 5,000 meters on Mount Kilimanjaro, deep within the Congo rainforest, and even at the center of the Sahara Desert. The results were consistently favorable. Compared to traditional phones, it boasts a 60 improvement in signal strength, and we are serious about the maximum signal. The comparative graphs displayed on the screen showed Transsion's signal strength curve consistently surpassing that of Motorola and Nokia. Observing the astonished audience, Adebayo quipped, this means that while others may lose contact, your phone will still have power and signal. Additionally, this phone features a new quick disconnect design, allowing the battery to be easily removed in one step. After replacing it with a spare battery, it can be fully revived in mere seconds. Some users of the Techno T1 expressed keen interest in this device, contemplating an upgrade if the price remains reasonable. After all, the new product is superior. Why is Transsion so focused on signal strength? We believe safety is paramount. We must ensure that no matter where you are in Africa, you can receive calls from your loved ones. This statement resonated deeply with many. As Africa's vastness and sparse population render communication challenging, a single call can be a matter of life and death. The applause grew even more fervent, lasting well over a minute. Next came the photography demonstration. Adebayor invited 5 models on stage, showcasing a significant enhancement in photo clarity. This time, the Power Max is equipped with a new 1-megapixel lens, marking a twofold upgrade from our T1. Not only can we capture clear images, but we can also take more beautiful ones. Live selfies and real-time projections revealed that each photo's skin tones appeared more natural and detailed, with richness even in complex lighting and minimal noise. The powerful algorithms elicited gasps from the audience. Some individuals lamented their failure to pre-order, fearing the device might sell out quickly. Finally, the aspect of durability was addressed. Under the audience's watchful gaze, Adebayor performed a remarkable feat by dropping the Power Max from a height of 2 meters onto a hard surface. The phone landed with a dull thud, and upon retrieval, it was wiped clean and functioned normally. Amidst the astonishment, a security personnel produced a walnut and smashed it on the floor. Afterward, the phone remained fully operational, the screen intact and the functions unscathed. The Power Max incorporates a new drop-resistant design and military-grade shockproof technology, Adebayor stated. We understand that in Africa, phones must endure bumpy roads, swirling sands, and occasional drops. With these designs, such concerns are alleviated. With the introduction of these fundamental features, the atmosphere in the venue was electric. This phone surpassed those advertised in their homes, proving to be exceptionally worthy of purchase, yet the price remained a mystery. While Transsion designs phones specifically for the African market, this upgrade is substantial. A price increase is inevitable, but whether it is affordable remains uncertain. Adebayor, noting the expectant gazes from the audience, reiterated his familiar rhetoric. How much should such a phone cost? As per tradition, let us first examine the competition. The Nokia N96, though equipped with a 5-megapixel lens, does not produce images as favorable as our 1-megapixel lens. In other aspects, despite its 16 gigabytes internal memory, its poor photography renders that memory somewhat irrelevant. In terms of signal and battery life, the Power Max decisively outperforms it. Ultimately, the large screen displayed 4 points of comparison, revealing that the Nokia N96 only excelled in one category. As for Nokia's metal frame and higher definition screen, those parameters are irrelevant to the African populace. Thus, a phone of this caliber might be priced around $500 by other brands. Some unacquainted with the details in Tanzania expressed disappointment, believing such advanced devices were out of their reach. However, Transsion's philosophy diverges. We believe that good technology should not be reserved for the affluent. After numerous cost analyses, we have decided. The audience erupted in astonished applause, reaching new heights of enthusiasm. Chapter 25, Unboxing and Review 149. The price has risen by 50 compared to the Techno T1, entering the mid to high-end market, yet remains considerably affordable relative to expectations. The cost-performance ratio remains high, still within reach for the average person. Furthermore, everyone present today can purchase it for a special price of $139 with their admission ticket. The venue erupted into chaos as people rushed to the temporary sales point set up outside, with lines forming that stretched several hundred meters. The demographic of users has shifted significantly, evolving from predominantly female to a more balanced ratio of 60-40 between men and women. This transformation marks considerable progress, with battery life and strong signal reception becoming pivotal strategies to attract male users. In the background, Shen Fei observed the live scene and instructed Li Qing beside him. Notify the factory to commence full-speed production. Additionally, the first batch of goods is nearing the port. Ensure proper logistics management. The second batch must be dispatched swiftly to reach over 20 countries within a month to solidify our market presence. The assembly plant in Africa must also commence operations accordingly. Establishing this facility is essential, not only for improved efficiency, but also as a local endorsement. After all, profitability should accompany advancement. However, given the chaos in Africa, Transsion will only establish a modest assembly plant there, with the primary focus remaining domestically. Li Qing's hands trembled with excitement as she held a report. Mr. Shen, we have achieved a 5 market share in Africa ahead of schedule. Our department has just compiled the figures, and our shipment volume has reached this 5 threshold. This year, we are set to exceed 15 without a doubt. Shen Fei nodded, and the system's alert chimed appropriately. Main task, seize the momentum, progress at 95. Expected to achieve a 5 market share in Africa within 24 hours. The Recovery and Dismantling Center is about to be deployed. It seemed the sales figures from the system diverged from Transsion's internal statistics. While he pondered this discrepancy and the dismantling center's implications, another matter captured his attention. The new secretary, Li Ziki, hurried over, whispering, "Mr. Shen, trouble has arisen domestically. Li Xiangdong of Boda Mobile, in collaboration with 12 suppliers, has issued a joint statement accusing Transsion of unfair competition through poaching. They have also filed complaints with the relevant authorities, demanding an investigation into Transsion's product qualifications." A smirk curled at Shen Fei's lips. The anticipated maneuver had indeed arrived, albeit lacking sophistication. If any of those suppliers were from MediaTek, he might have taken them more seriously, but their foolishness remained unchanged. "By the way, boss, there's one more thing." Li Ziki hesitated briefly. The tech blogger, Xiaobai, has just released an unboxing video featuring the T1. What are the reviews like? You should see for yourself. Li Ziki handed over her laptop. Shen Fei's attention was not on the review video, but rather on the playback device in front of him. This bulky laptop was no match for a tablet's convenience. It seemed prudent to prioritize tablet development for the next product, while also testing the capabilities of the Innovative Technology Enhancement Center. The screen continued to play. Titled, "Is the phone hailed as the African miracle truly worth purchasing?" Techno T1 Review. In the video, a young man in his 20s, with a uniquely captivating voice that was both clear and vibrant, introduced himself. "Hello everyone, I am Xiaobai. Today, I will be reviewing a rather special phone, the Techno T1. Upon seeing its appearance, you might conclude that it bears little distinction from a typical feature phone, perhaps even resembling a counterfeit." He continued, "But what makes it special? Its manufacturer is a Chinese brand, yet it is not sold domestically. Instead, it targets the African market. A friend of mine brought one back from Nigeria and has been using it for 2 weeks with satisfactory results." The review progressed with the customary unboxing. As he discarded the accessories into the trash, a long-standing tradition on his channel, he then showcased Transsion's exclusive 4-card, 4-standby feature. He opened the Techno T1, revealing a significantly larger battery, carefully highlighting the 4-card, 4-standby capability. This is a unique feature designed by Transsion for the African environment, boasting 4 SIM card slots. A remarkable innovation tailored to local needs. I have verified that the patent has been filed, and I believe Transsion will continue to excel in this area. As the video unfolded, viewers began to comment. Vast land, sparse population, outdated communication. The geography student upstairs can leave. This is a tech channel, not an educational one. This feature seems quite fun. The Sea King is in luck. Luck? For slots cannot be used simultaneously. Amidst the humorous banter, the video soon transitioned to a photography comparison segment. Xiaobai, leveraging his network, enlisted 3 individuals for the review, a Caucasian, an Asian, and an African. The comparison featured the iPhone 3G, Nokia N95, and Transsion T1. Unsurprisingly, the T1 outperformed in capturing images of the African participant and even slightly excelled with the Asian. Transsion's algorithm for deep skin tone optimization is impressive, Xiaobai noted, adjusting his glasses. According to a friend who specializes in image algorithms, this technology is at least 2 years ahead of the industry. However, a question arose. Why doesn't Transsion apply this technology domestically? With this algorithm, they could easily surpass other counterfeit devices and perhaps even become the king of counterfeit phones, akin to Boda. The comments reflected this inquiry. Why? In the latter half of the video, Xiaobai meticulously analyzed the T1's hardware costs. The chip, a familiar face, MediaTek's MT6225 platform, was exclusively for counterfeit devices. While its performance was subpar, the cost-effectiveness was commendable. It could make calls, send texts, and capture basic photos. Aside from its limitations, there were no other issues. This explained why the T1, despite its powerful algorithm, utilized only a 500,000 pixel basic camera. However, given that this phone retails for a mere $99, it was noteworthy. The subsequent evaluation turned more technical as he examined the motherboard, noting some unique designs rather than direct MediaTek acquisitions, and praised the professional antenna layout. With a genuine 1,600 mAh battery, the overall endurance was commendable, boasting a standby time of approximately 10 days. The craftsmanship slightly surpassed that of domestic counterfeit phones. Thus, I am left wondering why Transsion, capable of producing quality products, chooses to venture into Africa. Is it truly a treasure trove? As the video concluded, Xiao Bai addressed the camera. Since middle school, I have enjoyed engaging with technology, and as a reviewer for 3 years, I have encountered myriad manufacturers boasting of groundbreaking technology, only for the products to fall short. Transsion is among the few that surprised me. They did not make grand claims, yet their product effectively addresses user needs. Therefore, my score for this device is Chapter 26. Negotiations with MediaTek suppliers. Perhaps domestic manufacturers should engage in introspection. While most compete on parameters, pricing, and marketing, Transsion has garnered respect in a different arena. Consequently, this phone receives a final score of 8. 5 points were deducted for insufficient memory and a rudimentary system. But considering its price and positioning, it stands as an excellent feature phone. He concluded, lowering his voice. Most importantly, this phone is not sold domestically. However, if Transsion could bring this product ethos back, I believe the Chinese smartphone market might also experience a transformation. As the video ended, viewership surpassed 3,000. Though the current fan engagement was not as robust as in the future, the comment section remained lively. Xiao Bai actually gave it an 8. 5. I recall the iPhone 3G only received an 8. Is the photography effect genuinely that impressive? Can a black individual be captured so clearly? It seems vaguely familiar. In the past, Transsion was known for producing counterfeit phones, and we had some nearby. It seems they have undergone a transformation now. Can this phone be purchased domestically? I am inclined to buy one for my collection. Although I am merely a small digital influencer, my impact continues to grow. Mr. Shen, should we consider launching the T1 in our domestic market as well? A phone under 500 yuan could be quite competitive. No, Shen Fei shook his head. The T1 is designed specifically for the African market and is not suitable for domestic consumers. We must return to the domestic market, and when we do, we aim to become the top domestic brand. However, we must remain patient, accumulate our technology, and nurture our researchers while effectively leveraging Africa as a prime opportunity. Li Ziki nodded thoughtfully, recognizing that the boss was strategizing on a grand scale. A series of notifications chimed in Shen Fei's ears, and he immediately sensed stability. Main task, continue the momentum, completed. African market share, 503. Rewards issued to the Recycling and Disassembly Center, capable of dismantling old phones and repairing parts. New task generation in progress. Shen Fei smiled. The Recycling and Disassembly Center was secured, a new ace up his sleeve to experiment with. Soon, those attempting to stifle Transsion's supply chain would witness a true dimensional strike. Your costs may be low, but I require no costs. How will you respond, I wonder? Main task updated. African dominance. Task description. Achieve a 20 market share in Africa. Reward. 10,000 innovation points. Redeemable for technology, equipment, talent, and other resources in the system mall. Mall technology preview. Graphene mass production technology. 2,000 points. 4G communication patent package. 5,000 points. Artificial intelligence algorithms. 7,500 points. Flexible OLED production line. 6,000 points. Upon returning to Transsion's headquarters in Guangzhou, Shen Fei resumed his study of the system rewards. He focused intently on the system interface that formed in his mind, his breath quickening. It was no longer merely a matter of waiting for tasks. It was a complete redemption system. This meant that upon completing tasks and earning points, he could exchange them for groundbreaking technologies that were considered elite in his previous life. A 20 market share in Africa, though the method of calculation remains a mystery, translates to approximately 24 million units based on the current annual sales of 120 million units. Transsion's monthly sales have only just surpassed 800,000 units, with annual sales still shy of 10 million. Doubling that within a year poses a significant challenge. Yet, the technologies available in the mall are enticing. Graphene mass production technology only began to mature around 2015, and true commercial viability is still a distant goal. The 4G patent package pertains to competition over communication standards for the next decade, while flexible OLED technology represents a high-end smartphone barrier. If Transsion can position itself ahead of the curve, it could rewrite the rules entirely. Mr. Shen, the representatives from MediaTek have arrived. Secretary Li Ziki knocked and entered. They've been arranged in the second conference room, but they are somewhat arrogant. Shen Fei closed the system interface and adjusted his attire. Let us go. If they are arrogant, they will soon find themselves humbled. In the second conference room, Lu Jiwei, MediaTek's vice president of sales for the Greater China region, had been waiting for 5 minutes. In his 40s, he embodied the typical demeanor of a Taiwanese corporate executive, with a hint of barely concealed arrogance in his gaze. Despite earning profits here, he still harbored disdain for the locale. 2 months prior, Transsion's procurement director, Lu Fong, had reached out to discuss the supply of new smartphone chips and low-end chip provisions. But Lu Jiwei had not even granted a meeting, instructing his subordinates to respond that production capacity was tight. A small counterfeit factory could negotiate prices for MediaTek's latest smartphone platform? He believed it was beneath him to engage. They should simply accept whatever price he offered without question. Any attempts to bargain were unwarranted. However, that morning, the boss Zhang Zhongmo had personally called from Taipei, stating that Transsion sales in Africa had surged, with the intelligence department predicting monthly sales between 1 to 2 million units, signaling a rise. They were just in the process of applying for a purchase order, and he was to head to Guangzhou to sign the contract and explore further development opportunities. Yet upon arrival, he found himself snubbed, receiving no reception from the boss. In stark contrast to the warm welcomes extended to other manufacturers, a flicker of displeasure crossed his mind. He resolved to teach them a lesson during negotiations. After all, the Chinese market had never been short of counterfeit manufacturers, which fueled his confidence. "Mr. Lu, sorry to keep you waiting." Shen Fei entered, followed by Procurement Director Lu Fong and Technical Vice President Chen Hai. "Mr. Shen, no need for formalities," Lu Jiwei said, rising to shake hands. Although displeased internally, he wore a professional smile. He had heard of Transsion's success in Africa, and today he finally met the man behind it. Indeed, he was young and promising. After exchanging pleasantries, they took their seats. Lu Jiwei spoke first. "Mr. Shen, our technical team has analyzed Transsion's T1 and PowerMax. The designs are quite mature, especially the antenna system and power consumption management. Your company has optimized our chips exceptionally well, and MediaTek is eager to collaborate with such an innovative enterprise." "Mr. Lu, let us skip the niceties and get straight to the point," Shen Fei interjected, sliding a document across the table. "This is Transsion's chip demand forecast for the next 12 months. We anticipate starting with 1 million units per month for the feature phone platform. For the smartphone chip platform, beginning in Q2 2009, we expect 100,000 units in the first month, with a subsequent 20 increase each month. This is our conservative estimate. If all goes well, smartphone demand could double." Lu Jiwei took the document, and upon seeing the figures on the first page, his eyes widened in astonishment. Starting with 1 million units per month. By December 2009, they projected 1.7 million units. As he flipped through, he was confronted with a dense market analysis. Nigeria's penetration rate had reached 29, Ghana 5, Tanzania 5, along with expansion plans for Ethiopia, Congo, South Africa, and several other countries. When did this small counterfeit factory achieve such rapid market penetration in Africa? Chapter 27. Finalizing the MediaTek supply contract. Even more astonishing were the other order contracts included in the attachment. The signed agreements from channel partners amounted to over 1 million units per month. "Mr. Shen, this volume." Lu Jiwei set the document down, and his demeanor shifted instantly. All previous emotions dissipated. What? Poor attitude? That was merely a reflection of his service shortcomings. It was a test from Transsion, and he needed to amend those flaws. This was no insignificant player. This was a golden opportunity. Those at Boda only delayed his progress. "Mr. Shen, to be candid, MediaTek's production capacity is indeed tight, particularly for the smartphone platform. As you know, last year, the sales of the Fruit Company's 3G devices surged, and everyone is vying for production capacity and market share. Our MT6573 has just entered mass production, and many major manufacturers are in line. Therefore, we must discuss not just pricing but also priority." Shen Fei interjected. Lu Jiwei's brow furrowed slightly. Priority was negotiable, but given Transsion's current sales volume, they hardly warranted it. However, since this was a golden opportunity, he would need to consult headquarters and secure an agreement. Transsion could sign a 3-year contract with a 30 upfront payment, but there were 2 conditions. "Please proceed." Lu Jiwei nodded instinctively, his face filled with anticipation. There was no need to consult headquarters. He could agree to this himself. The first condition was a further 15 reduction from the current price, and the second was a guaranteed monthly supply quota of 500,000 units for the smartphone platform. 15? This is inconceivable. Lu Jiwei's expression shifted once again as he instinctively shook his head. Although the proposal from Transsion was indeed appealing, the proposed discount rate was simply untenable. In an effort to seize market share, they had already compressed their profit margins to the extreme. A further reduction of 15 was out of the question. The most favorable pricing MediaTek offered to major clients was a mere 10 decrease, and Transsion was already benefiting from a 2 discount. If it were for a smart chip platform, I could concede to a 15 reduction, but for the feature phone platform, I lack the authority to make that decision. Lu Jiwei's face displayed a clear sense of distress. That is the price for the domestic market, he continued, but Shen Fei interrupted, eager to seize the advantage. Currently, MediaTek commanded over 80 market share domestically, perhaps even 90, yet their penetration in the African market remained disappointingly low. If MediaTek is willing to support us, Transsion's sales in Africa could exceed 20 million units next year, which would allow MediaTek to increase its market share by at least 10, Shen Fei asserted. Confident that Zhang would be satisfied with this market potential, and you would be a key contributor to this market expansion, reaping substantial rewards. Lu Jiwei fell silent. MediaTek had indeed been keen on penetrating new markets, with Africa being a significant target. However, that region had predominantly been dominated by Nokia's low-end platforms, continually siphoning off market share. If Transsion could genuinely achieve 20 million units sold, it would present an irresistible temptation. The feature phone platform can only decrease by a maximum of 12, with no limitations on production capacity. Lu Jiwei finally relented, seemingly having made a difficult decision. I can offer a 16 discount on the smartphone platform, but we can only guarantee a supply of 300,000 units per month. That is the utmost authority I possess. Lu Jiwei's frustration was evident. This is becoming unmanageable for me. None of these proposals satisfy my requirements, he lamented, but Shen Fei interrupted him again. Do not fault me for being meticulous. In the African market, profits are sparse. Every penny must be accounted for. Nodding in acknowledgement, Lu Jiwei remained silent. Let us adjust the terms slightly, reduce the price on the feature phone platform to 13, and ensure a monthly supply of 400,000 units on the smartphone platform. Shen Fei, having made a concession, believed Lu Jiwei would acquiesce, yet noticing his hesitation, he pressed on. Mr. Lu, I am aware that the yield rate of the MT6573 has surpassed 85, and the actual cost is 25 lower than your quoted price. Transsion merely seeks a reasonable profit. Lu Jiwei furrowed his brow once more. The yield rate of the MT6573 was of paramount importance to the group, known only to a select few, himself included. How did he come by this information? Had he perhaps indulged too much? Certainly, it must have been from the foolish individuals at Baoan. The conference room fell silent. Chen Hai seized the opportunity to bolster their position. Mr. Lu, our first smartphone is already in development, with plans to employ the MT6573 for high-end models and the MT6515 for lower-end options. Should our collaboration proceed smoothly, we may even utilize the MT6575 or a dual-core platform next year. Transsion's sales network in Africa could serve as the ideal testing ground for MediaTek's new platforms. A dual approach. Lu Jiwei regarded the young man before him, who was not yet 30, and finally realized that this individual was not merely a privileged heir rising through adversity, but rather a shrewd businessman. I need to report this to Mr. Zhang. I must discuss this matter in person, as it involves many facets. If feasible, we could establish a strategic partnership, he concluded. By all means, Shen Fei gestured. However, I require a response by 5 p.m. tomorrow, as Qualcomm's representatives are arriving in Yanqing on Wednesday, and they share a keen interest in the entry of Chinese manufacturers into the African market. This was an overt threat, yet effective. MediaTek's primary goal was to penetrate the high-end market, which also constituted their greatest peril. Qualcomm's patents and communications rendered their chips almost a mixed blessing. Pursuing the high-end market could be perilous for MediaTek, especially given their technological inferiority in comparison to Qualcomm. Understood, Lu Jiwei replied, rising from his seat. I will provide you with an answer by noon tomorrow. After bidding farewell to the MediaTek team, Chen Hai could not restrain his curiosity. Mr. Shen, are we truly going to meet with Qualcomm? Of course, Shen Fei replied with a smile. How else can we exert pressure on MediaTek? However, Qualcomm's chips are prohibitively expensive for now. Yet, it is crucial they understand that Transsion has options. Only then can negotiations proceed smoothly. And this is not the sole option available. Not the only option? Chen Hai questioned, perplexed. Do not inquire further. Meanwhile, in Bowen, the second production base of Transsion was undergoing equipment dismantling. Only an empty factory remained as the construction team engaged in urgent upgrades. Concurrently, security measures and access protocols had been significantly enhanced. Returning to his office, Shen Fei accessed the system interface to continue his research on the recycling and dismantling center. The facility occupied 500 square meters and operated fully automatically, requiring only 15 personnel for maintenance. Its core technology involved molecular-level dismantling and atomic-level repair techniques, enabling the breakdown of obsolete mobile phones into their original components and rectifying microscopic damage to restore performance to that of new devices. Most importantly, it boasted a capacity of 20,000 units per hour, equating to 480,000 units per day, or 175 million per year. This figure surpassed the annual influx of discarded mobile phones into Africa. The King of Africa, he mused, will be effortlessly secured. Chapter 28. Boeing's competitors. More significantly, these refurbished chips could be utilized by Transsion or sold to other manufacturers of counterfeit devices, thereby establishing their own ecosystem. However, this hinged on the availability of sufficient sources of discarded mobile phones. Shen Fei dialed the marketing department, issuing a directive, tomorrow, announced that Transsion will globally recycle old mobile phones, regardless of brand or condition, as long as the modules are intact. The buyback price will be set at 20 above the market average. Mr. Shen, this will significantly increase costs. Proceed as instructed. After ending the call, Shen Fei approached the window and caught sight of the imposing logo of Boeing's branch building in the distance, its advertisements still resonating loudly. What a disgraceful state for Boeing phones, once the kings of mobile devices. Yet this once revered manufacturer of counterfeit phones was now sliding into decline. Despite the preservation of their distribution channels and ongoing brand recognition, the pace of change in the industry far outstripped their understanding. If Boeing were indeed to set its sights on the African market, launching a large-scale invasion, a mischievous smile crept across Shen Fei's face. This would be entertaining. Just then, Huang Tianya sent a message, perfectly corroborating Shen Fei's thoughts. Mr. Shen, I have received news. Li Xiangdong expressed his outrage in an internal Boeing meeting, claiming that Transsion poached two of their teams, an intolerable act. Their animosity towards us has intensified, and Boeing is preparing to launch a special model for Africa. With specifications comparable to the T1, priced $1 cheaper, expected to hit the market in the second quarter of 2009. Shen Fei chuckled at the news, finding it utterly amusing. In Hangzhou, at Boeing's headquarters, the president's office was shrouded in smoke as Li Xiangdong stood by the window, his face a stormy shade of gray. Behind him, heads of the marketing, research and development, supply chain, and research institute departments stood in a line, afraid to breathe, lest the fury be redirected towards them. You've been retaliating for over 2 months, and it's been utterly futile. As a result, they swooped in and poached 2 teams in less than a month. Li Xiangdong turned to face them, slamming a stack of resignation letters down on the table. The baseband RF team, 14 individuals left en masse. After painstakingly recruiting a few prize talents, they were all taken in one fell swoop. The image algorithm team, which has been pivotal for Transsion's success in Africa, saw 9 members also get packaged off. What on earth have you all been doing? The head of the marketing department muttered under his breath. Isn't it because you were unwilling to pay for the signing of a non-compete agreement? At this moment, he could only muster the courage to explain, Mr. Li. The compensation from Transsion is excessively high. Their base salary is doubled, along with project options. Given our current situation at Bodeo, we simply cannot retain our employees. If we can't keep them, we must raise salaries. Li Xiangdong shouted in frustration. In truth, there was no need for Mr. Li to be so furious. Those individuals were essentially worthless. The graphics algorithm team had been with them for 2 months, and not only had they failed to make any breakthroughs in the project, but they had barely written any code before departing, leaving behind a mess. This sense of self-deprecation, while acknowledging their ineptitude, actually alleviated Li Xiangdong's ire. He irritably remarked, "Let us consider this matter settled. But how does Transsion manage to amass such wealth selling counterfeit phones in Africa? They have that Huaxin investment. Did you investigate its background? Yes, it's registered in the Cayman Islands, and the actual controller remains unknown. However, they possess substantial capital, having invested $280 million in Transsion and are still acquiring upstream and downstream enterprises, quite lavishly indeed." Li Xiangdong waved his hand in annoyance, fully aware that, with such incompetent personnel, they would not uncover anything significant. Enough with the insults. We'll address that later. How prepared are the products on the market? The R&D director quickly reported, the prototype is complete, featuring dual SIM card slots, a 1,200 mAh battery, and a 2-megapixel camera, primarily focused on photography. The design draws inspiration from the Transsion T1, but incorporates differentiation. The cost is approximately 36, with an expected retail price of 98. We believe this Bodeo phone will certainly achieve great success. Yet they overlooked a crucial factor. Transsion's explosive popularity in Africa stemmed not only from hardware that addressed their pain points, but, more importantly, from their superior photography algorithms. Pixel count is merely one aspect. To capture beautiful images, an effective algorithm is essential. Why didn't Transsion implement the 4-card, 4-standby feature? Isn't it merely a matter of 2 card slots? Why scrimp on that? The head of R&D, perplexed, thought to himself, when did Mr. Li become so technically ignorant? Actually, during the initial design phase, we did consider this option. However, that crafty Shen Fei applied for all the patents. If we were to use it, we would be handing them a weapon against us. Li Xiangdong nodded, then inquired, what about pricing? Transsion's T1 is priced at 99. We plan to set ours at 98, $1 lower. Our specifications are superior, and we are confident we can prevail. The profit margin is slightly lower. Yet we still have ample room for price reductions. Even if we incur losses, eliminating Transsion is a viable strategy. After all, we have the resources to withstand some losses. Crushing them and claiming the African market, even at a loss of several hundred million, is entirely feasible. Li Xiangdong regarded this fool, contemplating his proposal. It was indeed commendable. Wasn't he entirely foolish and showed some ingenuity? What about the supply chain? The platform is from MediaTek, batteries from Desay, and camera modules from Sunny Optical, all mature suppliers and long-standing partners, so production capacity is not an issue. The supply chain director paused briefly before continuing. However, Mr. Li, Transsion has recently been acquiring large quantities of old mobile phones. I'm not sure what they intend to do with them. Old phones. Li Xiangdong frowned slightly. Dealing with that junk could be quite troublesome. While it could be profitable, the margins were minimal. What do they want that for? Dismantling parts? What value do those scraps hold? Perhaps they've discovered a new approach? Transsion is offering 20 above market price, making it more profitable than dismantling them themselves. And it's less labor-intensive. The recyclers in Huiqiangbai are now directly supplying them. After a moment of contemplation, Li Xiangdong suddenly chuckled. I understand. Transsion sells low-cost phones in Africa with slim profits and aims to salvage parts from old phones to reduce BOM costs. Clever. This presents us with an opportunity, a chance to effortlessly outshine them. He lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. Since they are collecting, we shall do the same. Let us intensify our trade-in program. After all, someone will reimburse us. Moreover, we can pass on the remaining 1 million old phones from our trade-in activity to them. Initially meant for electronic waste disposal, which would have cost us significantly, now we can sell them to Transsion, saving money and making a profit. But, Mr. Li, many of those phones can't even power on anymore. Didn't Shen Fei say that as long as the casing is intact, it's acceptable? Li Xiangdong exhaled a puff of smoke. If they wish to lower their costs with such trivial tactics, then let them have their fill. Can they truly handle over 1 million phones? Even if they can't, they must. Other companies are accepting scrap phones. Does Bodeo deserve special treatment? The executives in the conference room exchanged glances, each reflecting the uncertainty in the other's eyes, yet no one dared to voice dissent. Chapter 29. Collaboration with Bodeo simultaneously. At Transsion's Bao No. 2 production base, Factory No. 3, Wang Shangzhong donned dust-proof goggles and a protective suit, gazing at the equipment before him with a familiar smile. This equipment, which had followed him, was now operating at full speed within this new factory. Indeed, the system had not only rewarded the equipment, but had also turned into a human trafficker. At the entrance, workers were dumping entire boxes of old phones into the feed. At the exit, disassembled parts emerged from various channels: motherboards, screens, batteries, cameras, shells. Even more astonishing was the transparent sealed chamber. The disassembled chips passed through there, where surface scratches and oxidation disappeared at a visibly rapid pace, and the metal contacts regained their former luster. Mr. Wang, the test report is ready. A technician rushed over with the document. The disassembly rate is 21,500 per hour, meeting the expected standard. Chip repairs are flawless. After enhancement in the strengthening center, the chips exhibited a qualitative improvement. We tested some chips, and their performance improved by an average of 21.3, with power consumption reduced by 18.7. Post-repair, the chip frequency experienced a slight increase, consistent with the discrepancies in processing technology. Considering physical differences, performance has enhanced by at least 18. The same tasks now consume nearly 1/5 less power. This is the strength of Shanghai technology. Shen Fei entered the factory, not observing the operational production line, but directly inquiring of Wang Shangzhong, how many can this production line handle in a day? The design capacity is 480,000 units per day, but it should reach 500,000. Wang Shangzhong was well versed in these figures. Moreover, due to the system's influence, he held a natural loyalty to Shen Fei. However, the issue at hand was, there wasn't enough inventory. Hui Qiangbai could only gather a few tens of thousands of units per day, rendering the equipment incapable of operating at full capacity, which was a complete waste. Understood. Shen Fei nodded. I will find a solution for this issue. Once the funds are secured, the supply problem will be swiftly resolved. As if Shen Fei's words possessed a magical quality. Just as he finished speaking, his phone rang. The caller ID displayed, Li Xiangdong. The two companies were in fierce competition, and Li's call was unlikely to bring good news. Yet Shen Fei answered the phone, activating the speaker. Mr. Shen, I heard you are acquiring large quantities of old phones. Li Xiangdong's tone carried a hint of mockery and a superior's amusement. Bodeo's trade-in program has procured quite a number of old phones. We're struggling to find a way to process them. Would you like me to offer you a preferential price? We owe you a debt of gratitude. Without you, how could we have conceived such a splendid promotional activity? Bodeo's market share has increased by a full 1.5. In any case, we have difficulty processing them, so it's perfect to sell them to you at a low price. The factory fell silent, all eyes turning to Shen Fei, who seemed excessively arrogant, prompting the executives to contemplate a physical confrontation. Even Wang Shangzhong had prepared a sack and a club. However, Shen Fei was not as furious as they imagined. Despite Li's unpleasant demeanor, he was indeed offering him a substantial amount of money. Li, the general manager, intends to sell, and of course, I am willing to accept. What price should we agree upon? Since Bowden has made substantial profits, surely a few cents should not pose an issue for you, right? Oh, let us get to the point. How about a 25 increase on the market price? Sounds fair enough, doesn't it? The remainder can be considered a token of appreciation for you. That is acceptable. However, handling such a large volume requires considerable expenditure. These phones should be left to General Li for you to manage. I have matters to attend to after all, as we are a small company. Shen Fei replied without reservation. Oh, Shen, please do not decline so hastily. I was merely jesting. Let us settle on 15 yuan per phone, which is essentially the price for an exchange of old for new. After deducting shipping costs, we hardly stand to gain anything. Deal. Shen Fei agreed readily. And as for the barbs hidden within the conversation, they were merely words from someone who chose to speak freely. Nevertheless, I must inspect the goods. The shells may be damaged, but the motherboards must not be missing any components. Can you meet the standard? Otherwise, we cannot accept them. No problem. Li Xiangdong smiled even more joyfully, realizing that this approach might not only spare him the burden of crushing Transsion, but also help them save a significant amount on processing old phones. This fleeting thought crossed his mind, as today's intention was to mock them into recognizing their position, not to recruit subordinates. I assure you there will be no issues. Despite being adversaries, I still possess a measure of credibility. Li Xiangdong beamed with delight. However, Shen, over 1 million units. Can you handle that? Should we divide it into batches? No need. Deliver them all at once. How many are we talking about? Shen Fei inquired. The Bayan warehouse, you should be aware of it. Payment upon delivery. If there are more, feel free to send them directly. We can accommodate any quantity as long as the price remains the same. After hanging up, Wang Shangzhong subtly reminded. Shen, over 1 million old phones at this price is indeed feasible, but it will still amount to over 10 million. However, the funds. Money is not an issue. Shen Fei waved his hand dismissively. The U.S. stock market has recently begun to rise, and we have liquidated some assets on the Tianya side. The funds will be available shortly. In front of these absolutely loyal individuals, Shen Fei made no effort to disguise the relationship between the two. The key point is that the chips extracted from these over 1 million phones could allow us to recreate over 1 million brand new devices. Although the chip models may be subpar, as long as the functionalities are similar, they can be assembled together. Utilizing these components could reduce our costs by at least 60 to 80. However, the boss is evidently trying to annoy us, Wang Shangzhou muttered quietly. Who would dare speak to him like that previously? They would have faced dire consequences. I understand. Shen Fei approached the exit of the assembly line and produced a pristine motherboard. Yet, unbeknownst to him, what he sent was not waste, but gold. The repaired chips exhibited enhanced performance and reduced power consumption, indicating that the next batch of T1S could see an extension in battery life by an additional 10, and the system could operate more smoothly. When Bowden releases competing products at a lower price than ours, but who says I am a magnanimous person? Shen Fei's gaze gradually turned colder, revealing a smile that signified the success of his scheme. Once their products hit the market, we shall launch the enhanced version of T1, boasting greater battery life, superior performance, and upgraded photography capabilities, all at the price of $99. As for the original T1, we will reduce the price by $5. Isn't Li Xiangdong fond of stirring trouble and engaging in price wars? Shen Fei returned the motherboard to the production line. This time, I will let him understand what it means to strike from a higher dimension, an assault from extraterrestrial technology. Everyone in the factory understood. This was not a passive response, but rather a well-designed trap. Li Xiangdong believed he was causing trouble for Transsion, while in truth, he was merely supplying ammunition to a rival, and it was aimed squarely at them. Upon returning to the company, Shen Fei promptly notified the marketing department that the recycling price for old phones would rise by an additional 5 once Bowden took action. Although there would be certain requirements regarding volume. Isn't Li Xiangdong keen on outspending us? This time, Transsion would accompany him to the end, to see who truly suffered a loss. Meanwhile, in the mobile phone laboratory, Chunhai received a batch of enhanced MT6225 chips. Chapter 30. The Reinforcement Center strikes Chun. This batch of MT6225 seems a bit off, a technician remarked, hurrying towards Chunhai's office with a report in hand. How much longer can the well-established MT6225 chips differ? They have been in use for years, Chunhai asserted confidently before examining the report. Upon reading it thoroughly, his expression transformed to one of astonishment. The data clearly indicated MT6253, not MT6225. The performance had markedly improved, and the most astonishing aspect was the reduction in power consumption. Where did these chips come from? They were sent by the boss. Another engineer whispered. Could these be the chips that MediaTek provides to strategic partners? It turns out that major clients receive such hidden benefits, the engineer mused. Chunhai nodded thoughtfully. These chips were undoubtedly linked to MediaTek, likely due to the boss's connections. Do not inquire into matters that do not concern you. Notify the production department to conduct reliability tests on this batch immediately. If they pass, we shall use them in the production of next month's enhanced T1. I'll go speak with the boss, Chunhai decided, flipping through other reports. Besides these, there were also some lower-end chips, but upon testing, they exhibited certain performance upgrades, making them suitable for the low-end T80 series. 3 days later, outside the Bayan warehouse, 5 heavy-duty trucks arrived, each brimming with packed old phones. The logistics manager from Bowden, flaunting a checklist, observed with pride as Transsion's staff recorded the quantities, which were also verified by a nearby counting machine. Oh dear, I apologize. Business has been booming lately, and we have accumulated more old phones than expected. Is that all right? Of course, no problem, a Transsion manager replied, gratitude etched across his face. These individuals were not adversaries, but rather harbingers of fortune. They had also assisted in resolving his quota issues. A total of 1,287,000 units were counted. At the contract price of 15 yuan each, the total amounted to 19,305,000. The manager presented the invoice. Mr. Shin stated that payment would be in cash, with no discounts. After confirming, he promptly signed the check. 19 million. This was nearly half of Transsion's profit from the previous month, but the transaction was smooth, and the news quickly spread. The mobile phone recyclers in Huiqiangbai erupted in conversation, particularly those specializing in second-hand phones. Is Transsion out of their minds? Spending nearly 20 million on a heap of electronic waste? My son-in-law is an agent for Bowden phones. He has seen those old phones. More than half of them won't even power on. The chips have aged, and the parts aren't worth anything, barely covering the workers' wages. Is this some kind of charity? Are they planning on refurbishing the devices? But those inferior products would cost more to produce than making new ones. Various speculations circulated within the industry, but one thing remained clear. Transsion was serious about recycling old phones and was offering the highest prices. Consequently, even more discarded phones flooded into Bayan from all corners of the country. Meanwhile, at Boden's headquarters, Li Xiangdong felt elated as he gazed at the check before him. That little brat, Shen Fei, truly put on a brave face and accepted our products, he remarked to another vice president beside him. Clearly, they are strapped for cash, yet insist on taking in over 1 million units of trash. I'm eager to see how they will manage this. Continuing to acquire at low prices and selling at high prices, the other vice president cautioned, sensing that Hua Xing's strategy might not be entirely sound. Shouldn't we investigate what they're up to? We wouldn't want to inadvertently provide them with profits. What can one accomplish? Li Xiangdong's eyes were filled with disdain, his tone radiating confidence. It was merely a matter of disassembling some components, at best refurbishing a few cheap devices for sale in the poorer regions of Africa. Yet, how substantial could such a venture be, and how meager the profits? Not losing money would be considered a success. Indeed, they are refurbished devices. But they are somewhat different from your imagination, he stated as he rose, exuding that same confidence. Our focus is to create specialized aircraft for Africa. While Transsion sells theirs for $99, we will offer ours at $98 or even $95 with better specifications. I firmly believe the impoverished people of Africa will make the right choice. Once our product hits the market, I shall demonstrate to Shen Fei what true strength is, what it means to be undeniably doomed. However, Mr. Li, we have not conducted any market research in Africa. What if our products do not adapt well? What if? The words were left unspoken, silenced by the ferocious glare of Li Xiangdong. Those who uttered despairing thoughts before a pivotal battle in ancient times deserved execution. Yet, the vice president did not relent. He shifted his approach and continued to persuade. It was rumored that Transsion was developing a new phone with a 10 increase in battery life and enhanced performance. Yet the cost remained largely unchanged. Merely a marketing gimmick. Li Xiangdong dismissed with a casual wave. The MT6225 chip has limited performance. How much better could it possibly be? They are likely optimizing the system or merely replacing it with a larger battery. There's no way costs wouldn't rise. They are either cutting corners or delaying production. At that moment, he was filled with unwavering confidence. Once our product is launched, Transsion's petty tricks will be laid bare. Meanwhile, at the second production base, the third factory, the Black Technology Enhancement Center and Repair Center were operating simultaneously, maintaining a processing capacity of over 20,000 units per hour. The 28 million outdated mobile devices from Baoang could actually be processed in just 3 days. The most crucial aspect was that the repaired chips could be utilized to expand production capacity. Transsion Tower, Mr. Shen. The testing results of the new batch of chips are astonishing. Shen Hai burst into the room, unable to contain his excitement. Boss, we sampled 500 chips. And the performance improvements are not coincidental. Could it be? Indeed, we have developed an entirely new black technology that provides significant enhancement to the chips, which can now be referred to as the Transsion Enhanced Edition. Shen Hai was momentarily taken aback. How could such powerful black technology exist, seemingly defying the laws of physics? Yet, the facts were undeniable. Before he could ponder further, he was met with immense joy. Such remarkable results, and the boss was so candid with him. It seemed that in the boss's eyes, he had become an absolute confidant. Originally, now he must work even harder. He suppressed his excitement and reported another discovery. Boss, in addition, 3 of the chips exhibited stable overclocking behavior. The standard MT6225 has a maximum frequency of 104 MHz, but our batch operates at 125 MHz. With another group stable at 135 MHz, with power consumption only increasing by 5 compared to the enhanced version. Shen Fei's eyes lit up, a 20 performance boost. Along with the potential for extraordinary chips, it appeared that the technology at the enhancement center surpassed the system's specifications. There would be a certain probability of a critical breakthrough.